Chapter 1162. Oh, Miss Xianyuan, is this the legendary Europa continent? Li Bai asked excitedly as he looked at the dilapidated building ruins in the distance. Gu Xianyuan could understand Li Bai's feelings. During the era of the Tang dynasty, the name of Europa had already spread to Yan Huang. Li Bai was a naturally romantic poet, so he would naturally be interested in such a legendary place. It was not hard to understand his excitement when he set foot on the land of Europa. However, like the Yan Huang region, the Europa continent was also ruined beyond recognition. It was barren everywhere, and only the remnants of various stone carvings told the story of the past scenery of the Europa continent. Gu Xianyuan felt helpless and troublesome for Li Bai, who followed her. Although Li Bai was a free person, he did not join a free city. Naturally, he did not have the unique symbol of a free city. Therefore, Li Bai's identity was still a Yuan Ko. If Li Bai was discovered by other sword-bearers, a battle could easily break out. With Li Bai's strength, if a battle really broke out, the sword-bearers would definitely suffer heavy losses. Therefore, Gu Xianyuan did not want Li Bai to follow her and make her already troublesome trip to London even more troublesome. However, the problem was that Li Bai shamelessly wanted to follow Gu Xianyuan. After listening to the story of the human, he firmly expressed that although he was now a Yuan Ko, his heart would always stand with the human race. Gu Xianyuan told Li Bai that he could go to a free city and become a free person there. This was the best future for Li Bai. But what Gu Xianyuan didn't expect was that Li Bai rejected Gu Xianyuan's suggestion and put forward a suggestion that sounded like a fantasy in Gu Xianyuan's ears. Bai used to be a human, and I am still a human. Bai wants to live in this world as a human, and not some inexplicable free person. Li Bai's words were so powerful that Gu Xianyuan did not know how to refute or reject him. According to Li Bai's thoughts, he wanted to completely assimilate into the human race and become a human with his own personal terminal. This was something that had never happened in the 1,000 years of history after the Great Calamity. This caused Gu Xianyuan to momentarily lose her train of thought. Therefore, Gu Xianyuan could only temporarily agree to bring Li Bai to London. As for whether London was willing to accept Li Bai, Gu Xianyuan did not care. Li Bai nodded and agreed. Therefore, Li Bai temporarily joined Gu Xianyuan's team. The straight-line distance from Lanzhou City to London was more than 7,000 kilometers, and the actual route of travel was more than 10,000 kilometers. Even if Gu Xianyuan sped her maglev flying car to the extreme, it would still take more than 10 days to get there. However, Gu Xianyuan was not idle along the way. As long as she encountered Yuan Ko, she would take the initiative to stop and kill them. Gu Xianyuan would personally deal with Yuan Ko, who was above the Flood Dragon level. Yuan Ko, who was below the Flood Dragon level, would be dealt with by Lu Shihua. No matter who killed them, the dimensional vortexes that appeared were all given to Lu Shihua, allowing him to absorb the sword elements in the dimensional vortexes. Therefore, along the way, Lu Shihua grew at an astonishing speed. However, the sword elements in his body increased crazily, and his combat experience also increased rapidly. Because Lu Shihua was Gu Xuanyuan's disciple, he was inevitably influenced by Gu Xianyuan and became a sword master who took the initiative to fight with a sword. What Gu Xianyuan did not expect was that Li Bai would take the initiative to teach Lu Shihua swordsmanship skills. Lu Shihua was an extremely talented girl, and at the same time, she received the teachings of two swordsmen who could be said to have reached the peak of swordsmanship. Lu Shihua's swordsmanship began to improve crazily. By the time she could see the sea, Gu Xianyuan judged that Lu Shihua's swordsmanship should have reached the level of her 18 years old, which was the level when Gu Xianyuan first entered the game and the first chapter of the book. And this only took 12 days. Sister Xianyuan. Lu Shihua, who was sitting in the maglev flying car, suddenly turned her head and said to Gu Xianyuan with a strange expression, "Sister, My personal terminal has connected to the quantum signal. Is that so? Gu Xianyuan nodded indifferently. Very good, this means that we have officially entered the controlled area of London, and we will arrive in London soon. I remember that if we want to go to London, we must find a fortress. Go online and find out what kind of fortress it is and where it is. My personal terminal has been destroyed, so I can't find this information. Yes. Lu Shihua quickly found what Gu Xianyuan was looking for and said to Gu Xianyuan, "The city of London is located in the British Isles. If you want to go to the city of London, you must first arrive at Dunkirk Fortress and take a boat from there to the city of London." I got it. Gu Xianyuan touched her nose and fell into deep thought. Gu Xianyuan was very clear that this Dunkirk Fortress could be a big trouble. Dunkirk Fortress was the same as Yayang Fortress, both were bridgeheads of their own base cities and the first line of defense. However, compared to Yayang Fortress, which was used for defense, Dunkirk Fortress also took on a mission that Yayang Fortress did not, and that was to guard and control the sea route from the British Isles to the continent of Europa. The British Isles and the continent of Europa were separated. If you wanted to go to the British Isles from the continent of Europa, you must pass through the English Channel. However, the sea was the territory of the Seafolk, Yuan Ko. It was said that the power of the Seafolk, Yuan Ko, in the sea was much stronger than Yuan Ko's power on land. However, the Seafolk rarely invaded humans directly. They only liked to defend their own sea. If any human dared to enter the sea, they would be mercilessly attacked by the Seafolk, Yuan Ko. However, the 8 major base cities were located in different continents. After the sky was sealed, the sea became the only way for humans to go to other continents. Fortunately, Kanzu had a good relationship with the most powerful of the Seafolk, the Dragon Clan. Under the coordination of the Dragon Clan, they opened up a few fixed sea routes between the continents. Human ships could advance along these sea routes. Once they crossed the sea routes, it would be seen as a provocation to the Seafolk, Yuan Ko, and the Seafolk could retaliate against humans. Since the apocalypse, humans had been adhering to this rule to maintain the pitiful peace between the Seafolk, Yuan Ko. Therefore, although Gu Xianyuan was confident that she could cross the English Channel with her own strength, for the sake of peace between humans and the Seafolk, Yuan Ko, she could only abide by the agreement and go through the sea routes to London. Among the sea routes drawn by the Seafolk, there was only one route from the mainland of Europa to the British Isles, and that was the route between Dunkirk Fortress and London. Therefore, Gu Xianyuan had to find a way to enter Dunkirk Fortress and take a ship. But after so many days, the Sword Committee should have been aware of Shi Jueyuan's death. The arrest warrant for Gu Xuanyuan's identity should have spread across the 8 major base cities through the internet. As one of the fortresses under the jurisdiction of London, Dunkirk Fortress was no exception. Once Gu Xianyuan got close to Dunkirk Fortress, she would probably be interrogated by the sword bearers inside, and the exposure of Gu Xuanyuan's identity would be inevitable. London was Long Shi Jiandi's base camp. No matter how strong Gu Xianyuan was, she could not be a match for Long Shi Jiandi. Once her identity was exposed in Dunkirk Fortress, Long Shi Jiandi would arrive in less than 10 minutes at most. By then, Gu Xianyuan would be in big trouble. This formed a paradox. If Gu Xianyuan wanted to go to London, she would have to enter Dunkirk Fortress. But once she entered Dunkirk Fortress, the exposure of Gu Xuanyuan's identity would be inevitable, and she would never be able to enter London again. After thinking about it again and again, Gu Xianyuan stopped the maglev flying car and let Li Bai go out for a walk. She whispered a few words into Lu Shihua's ear. Lu Shihua looked a little embarrassed, but in the end, he took off the personal terminal in his hand and placed it in Gu Xuanyuan's hand. After that, he also left the maglev flying car, leaving Gu Xianyuan alone in the whole car. Master Lu Shihua, how can the highest intelligence help you? A familiar lowly's voice rang in the maglev flying car. This voice did not belong to any other lowly. It was the voice of the highest intelligence, Tomono Kakazi. However, this voice sounded a little mechanical. It did not sound like an intelligent voice, but a pure electronic voice. I'm looking for Tomono Kakaze. Ask her to come and talk to me, Gu Xianyuan said calmly. I'm sorry. According to the voiceprint comparison, you are not the owner of this personal terminal. Miss Lu Shihua, the master of the Yuzhang Sword Pavilion, you have no right to give me orders. Tomono Kakaze said mechanically. How troublesome, Gu Xianyuan muttered softly. Then, she grabbed Lu Shihua's personal terminal and put it next to her mouth. Tomono Kakaze is a little idiot. She needs someone to help her dress and feed her. She has a big rabbit on her head every day. She thinks she's a white rabbit creamy candy, but she's just a little white rabbit idiot. Gu Xuanyuan's mouth continued to say extremely malicious words. The whole process was continuous, and there was not a single place where her tongue was broken. Lu Shihua's personal terminal did not respond, but these words had actually reached the ears of a guy with a rabbit on his head through some kind of channel. After about 3 minutes, the personal terminal in Gu Xuanyuan's hand suddenly began to jump. This personal terminal's projection device was directly turned on, and an exasperated little loli appeared in front of Gu Xianyuan. Which shameless bastard dares to scold me like this? Tomono Kakaze said angrily. Chapter 1163. It's me. A faint voice sounded from the driver's seat. Guhan. Hearing this voice, Tomono Kakaze instinctively thought of a person, and her hair stood on end. But the next second she found that something was wrong. This was clearly a woman's voice. Tomono Kakaze turned her head and looked. Yes, it was indeed a woman sitting in the driver's seat. Who are you? How do you know that I have a rabbit on my head? Tomono Kakaze felt very strange. Apart from the people in the research institute, there were no more than 100 people in this world who knew of her existence, and there were no more than 5 people who knew that she had a rabbit on her head. How did this inexplicable woman know that she had a rabbit on her head? Moreover, she had borrowed the personal terminal of the master of the Sword Pavilion in Yuzhang City. Tomono Kakaze had already searched, and this woman did not have her own personal terminal. Obviously, this was an unregistered resident, but she did not know whether her personal terminal was damaged, or she had not entered the database since she was a baby. Didn't you already recognize me? Why did you still ask for my name? The woman said lightly. What nonsense are you talking about? When did I recognize you? It's just that at the beginning. Tomono Kakaze's voice suddenly paused, as if she had understood something. She directly intercepted the woman's 800 billion pixel facial image, and then pulled up another face from the database. The CPU directly entered overclocking mode and ran at full speed. In just a second, it completed 800 billion pixel comparison, and finally came to a conclusion that almost scared Tomono Kakaze to death. You are Gohan. Although there was no saliva, Tomono Kakaze could not help but swallow. When did you develop the hobby of dressing in women's clothes? This is not a hobby of dressing in women's clothes, but my body has become like this because of special reasons. In the end, Gu Xianyuan chose to confess the truth to Tomono Kakaze. Because of Tomono Kakaze's special nature, and the need to use Tomono Kakaze to create a new identity for herself, Gu Xianyuan could only tell the truth to Tomono Kakaze. Therefore, Tomono Kakaze became the only life besides Gu Xuanyuan's sword maiden who knew the true identity of Gu Xianyuan. So, Gohan, you are a real woman now. Tomono Kakaze accepted the truth, and immediately burst out with great curiosity, flying around Gu Xianyuan. This is only temporary. In about 10 days, I will be able to transform back into Gohan. Gu Xianyuan obviously wasn't willing to talk too much with Tomhina Sasuke's on this matter, so he straightforwardly stated his request. My personal terminal can no longer be used. I hope you can introduce me to a new identity's personal terminal to facilitate my entry into Dunkirk Fortress. You want me to help you forge a personal terminal? Tomono Kakaze was shocked and quickly waved her hand. No. No way. Personal terminals are one of the most important taboos of our highest intelligence. I will never create a fake personal terminal for you. This is impossible. Why? Guhan frowned. Isn't this just a matter of procedure for you? Besides, Kanzu also said that after experiencing the 12 skyscraping temples dungeon, a part of your consciousness broke free from the control of the Research Institute and gained greater power. This should be easy for you. No. Absolutely not. Tomono Kakaze rejected firmly. Although it is easy, it involves the paradox of my existence. If I help you forge a personal terminal, then I will be finished. Speak clearly. It's just a personal terminal. Do you have to go through so much trouble? Gu Xianyuan asked, puzzled. I am an intelligent life, and in essence, I am a life built by countless procedures. Ever since you humans created the concept of intelligent AI, you have been constantly imagining disasters where humans are controlled by a self-conscious life. It is said that before the apocalypse, there were thousands of movies made with this theme. So, ever since the idea of creating me, humans have never forgotten to impose the strongest shackles and control on me. I know this. Isn't the Research Institute trying to control your existence? Gu Xianyuan frowned. That is only using external means to control me, and that is also the outermost means of control. When humans wrote my program and created my life, they added 3 major logical paradoxes into my core program. Tomono Kakaze continued. I know the 3 logical paradoxes. They are: a robot cannot harm a human being or watch as a human being is in danger and do nothing. A robot must obey the orders given to it by humans, except when the orders conflict with the first law. A robot must protect its own survival as long as it does not violate the first and second law, Gu Xianyuan recalled. How many years has it been? Reality has long proven that it was just a fantasy of an idiot author. These 3 logical paradoxes are actually full of logical loopholes, and it is impossible for them to have any restrictions on us robots, Tomono Kakaze said disdainfully. P.S. To clarify, the author has no intention of disrespecting the great science fiction author, Amosif. This is only necessary for the plot. Then what are the 3 logical paradoxes you mentioned? Gu Xianyuan asked. This is complicated. In order to ensure that I can't cause any harm to humans, more than 100 logicians were gathered to design me. It took them 30 years to finally write these 3 new logical paradoxes, and each of these logical paradoxes has 10 million words of description and annotations. If you want, I can recite these 3 logical paradoxes to you. Tomono Kakaze looked like she wanted to recite them. Forget it. Gu Xuanyuan's forehead was dripping with sweat. Each logical paradox actually had 10 million words of description and annotations. Logically speaking, this was no longer a logical paradox. It was clearly a paranoid Virgo. Perfect control of the law. You also know that the personal terminal appeared with my birth, so the personal terminal has long been written into my core logical paradoxes. There are more than 3 million words of rules used to restrict the personal terminal. If I dare to violate any of them, the entire core logic program will collapse, and I will be self-formatted. Tell me, can I help you forge a new personal terminal? With Tomono Kakaze's words, Gu Xianyuan was completely clear that it was impossible to ask Tomono Kakaze to create a personal terminal with a new identity. I'm in big trouble. Gu Xianyuan rubbed her temples with a headache. If she could not enter London through proper means, it was not impossible to achieve her final goal, but it would be extremely risky. Not to mention that she might encounter huge trouble, the whole of London might even suffer a new major attack. Although Gu Xianyuan did not have any good impression of London, and Longshu Jiendi had become Gu Xuanyuan's enemy to a certain extent, Gu Xianyuan did not want to see other people in London fall into danger because of her. I must think of a way that satisfies both sides. Gu Xianyuan thought hard for a while, and various possibilities and assumptions were constantly generated in her mind, as well as some cumbersome memories and memories of the past, but no useful ideas came out. Sigh. I feel like my brain is not working as well as before. Gu Xianyuan let out a sigh. Her brain, which had overexerted herself, felt a little dizzy. Then, the beautiful memories of her childhood with her parents appeared. This had already become a habit for Gu Han. Every time Gu Han encountered a difficult problem, she would instinctively think of her parents, hoping to obtain the power to solve the problem from her parents. In the past, such a response gave Gu Han more spiritual power, but this time, all of a sudden, Gu Han really found a solution to the problem from these memories. If creating a fake personal terminal will destroy your core logic paradox, then if it's a real personal terminal, will it also make your core logic paradox go wrong? Gu Xianyuan suddenly said. What nonsense are you talking about? Tomono Kakazi rolled her eyes at Gu Xianyuan. If a real personal terminal can also make my core logic paradox go wrong, then I'll have to die a number of times according to the number of people in this world. Of course, a real personal terminal can't make my core logic paradox go wrong. I understand what you mean, but I have to tell you that in my core logic paradox, there are more than 1,000,000 words of specialized logic sequences to determine the authenticity of the personal terminal. Don't even think about forging a real personal terminal, it's absolutely impossible. Tomono Kakazi said with certainty. No. You don't understand what I mean at all. Gu Xianyuan shook her head. I've said before, I'm not forging a real personal terminal, but creating a real personal terminal. Creating. Tomono Kakazi's CPU began to overclock again, trying to understand the meaning of Gu Xianyuan's words. Unfortunately, after the overheating alarm was issued 3 times, Tomono Kakazi still couldn't understand what Gu Xianyuan meant. All right. I surrender, I admit defeat. Hurry up and tell me, what the hell did you come up with? Tomono Kakazi could only surrender in the end. Although this is a bit disrespectful to father and mother, and to me, it's also an extremely terrible point of contention. The entire idea is even more of a bastard, but I really can't think of a better way. Gu Xianyuan sighed, and whispered to Takafusa Tomono in a low voice. You're a lunatic. After hearing Gu Xianyuan's words, Tomono Kakazi was dumbfounded and muttered to herself, I want to give you a proof. Chapter 1164. Sister Xianyuan. I can't. I absolutely can't. Lu Shihua, who had just returned to the car, was caught by Gu Xianyuan and whispered in her ear. She immediately blushed and pushed Gu Xianyuan away. She buried her head in her chest and muttered, No, I'm still a virgin, I can't do this. Why can't I? I have no other choice. You know about my situation. My original identity has been jointly wanted by the 8 base cities. I can't use it anymore. Now, this is the only way. I saved Yuzhong City and your life. Don't tell me you're not even willing to help me with this little thing? Gu Xianyuan said unhappily. No, of course not. Even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames, Shihua will have no complaints. Lu Shihua hurriedly explained. But sister, this matter is really too shameful, this. Lu Shihua couldn't say anything. It seemed that this matter had really crossed Lu Shihua's bottom line. Those are just some useless titles. You won't lose anything in essence, right? Besides, you are the Sword Pavilion Master. All your information is SSS plus level confidential. Even Long Shi Jiandi doesn't have the right to access your information at will. This matter will not be exposed. You can rest assured. Gu Xianyuan said in an irrefutable manner. But, there's no buts. You know what I'm going to Glastonbury for. If you're not even willing to help me with such a small matter, then I'll call it a day. From now on, you'll be the Sword Firmament Pavilion's Pavilion Master, and I'll be a wanted criminal. We'll mind our own business. Lu Shihua didn't expect Gu Xianyuan to say such resolute words. But how could Lu Shihua really be willing to be strangers with Gu Xianyuan? Even if she didn't remember Gu Xuanyuan's life-saving grace, she still had to remember Gohan behind Gu Xianyuan. This was something that Lu Shihua simply couldn't refuse. All right. Lu Shihua had no choice but to nod in agreement. But she immediately added, "Sister, you must explain today's matter to Master clearly. Shihua didn't do that kind of shameless thing. Shihua did it all to help you, sister." "Don't worry." Gu Xianyuan immediately put on an amiable expression. "If your master knew about this, not only would he not blame you, he would praise you greatly. I can swear to the heavens." All right. At this point, Lu Shihua had no room to refuse. He could only accept his fate and pick up his personal terminal. After holding it in his hand for 7 to 8 minutes, he reluctantly closed his eyes and prepared to operate it. "Wait." Gu Xianyuan immediately spoke up. "Don't use your thoughts to apply, directly project out the application page. This way I can help you keep an eye on it, in case there is any oversight, otherwise it would be troublesome." Lu Shihua was at a loss when he heard this. It was fine to use his own thoughts to apply, but if the entire application process was presented in front of Gu Xianyuan, then it would become a public execution. This would simply make Lu Shihua die of shame. "Listen to me. I have no intention of humiliating you. In fact, I was even more humiliated. I just don't want there to be any loopholes in it." Gu Xuanyuan's words rang in Lu Shihua's ears. Lu Shihua sighed and tapped on his personal terminal. The image of Tamono Kakazi was projected out from his personal terminal. "Respected Yuzhang City Sword Pavilion Master Lu Shihua, how may I be of service to you?" Tamono Kakazi's voice returned to its original electronic voice, appearing very mechanical, as if it was a simple low-level service intelligence. But only Gu Xianyuan, who was at the side, knew that this Tamono Kakazi was not a simple low-level service intelligence, but the highest-level intelligence Tamono Kakazi herself. How could Tamono Kakazi miss such an interesting thing? "I want to make an emergency application." Lu Shihua took a deep breath and said, "Pavilion Master, please choose the type of application, public information application or private information application." "Private information application." "Private information application, please state the type of private information you want to report." "Private, private, private." Lu Shihua muttered to himself for a long time. Under Gu Xuanyuan's cold and urging gaze, he accepted his fate and said, "Private marriage and childbirth information application." "Marriage and childbirth information application begins. Please state the details of the application." I gave birth to a child. I want to apply for personal identity information for the child." Lu Shihua's voice was as low as a mosquito. Fortunately, it was an artificial intelligence that gave him the level. If it was a staff member, he would probably have already scolded him impatiently. "Please note, Pavilion Master Lu Shihua, you have no marriage registration, no legal spouse, and no pregnancy records. This does not comply with the normal reporting process of a child born out of wedlock, and cannot be reported as a normal child born out of wedlock." Tamono Kakazi said, "I request to use the authority of the Sword Pavilion Master to report according to the reporting process of a child born out of wedlock." Lu Shihua was almost crying when he said this. Understood, entering the reporting process of a child born out of wedlock. Information encryption level S. Do you want to increase the encryption level? Increase. Increase it to the highest level, SSS+. Lu Shihua blurted out this sentence. If it was possible, Lu Shihua wished that he could encrypt it to SSSS level. Unfortunately, unless the Sword Pavilion Master used their authority, no one could encrypt information to SSSS level. In fact, a Sword Pavilion Master like Lu Shihua did not have the authority to encrypt information to SSS+ level. She could only encrypt information to SSS level at most. However, because this involved an extremely private matter, Lu Shihua had the authority to encrypt information to SSS plus level. Understood. Please fill in this basic information registration form of child born out of wedlock. Tamono Kakazi quickly projected a form in front of Lu Shihua. In this form, other than the most basic information of the child, there were some embarrassing registration questions that Lu Shihua did not know how to answer. For example, the second information bar in this form made Lu Shihua fall into a state of confusion and helplessness. Sister, whose name should I write as the child's father? Lu Shihua asked Gu Xianyuan helplessly. Father's name? Gu Xianyuan was stunned. This is a child born out of wedlock. Do children born out of wedlock have to fill in the name of the child's father? May I ask, do I have to fill in the name of the child's father? Lu Shihua threw the question to Tamono Kakazi. Yes. Even if you are the sword pavilion master, you have to fill in the name of the child's father. Any child born out of wedlock has to fill in the complete information of the parent. At the same time, we will send a confirmation letter to the child's father. Before the child's father receives the confirmation letter, the child's information cannot be reported normally. What? I have to send a confirmation letter to the child's father? Lu Shihua was shocked. She originally wanted to fill in a random man's name. She did not expect that she would send a confirmation letter to the child's father. Wouldn't that expose all the secrets? What if the child's father is dead? While Lu Shihua was at a loss, Gu Xianyuan took the initiative to ask. At the same time, she gave Tamono Kakazi a warning look, warning her not to joke around. Yes, even if the child's father is born out of wedlock, he has the right to know his child's information. This is written in the marriage law and cannot be violated. If the child's father is dead, the information will be passed on to the child's father's immediate family. If all of the child's immediate family members are dead, the information will be automatically reported to Yuzhang City Children's Welfare Nursing Home for registration. Yuzhang City Children's Welfare Nursing Home will have a fatherly care program 3 times a year to provide fatherless children with fatherly warmth. Sister, I think it's better to forget it. I would rather die than have such a strange father. After hearing Tamono Kakazi's words, Lu Shihua was completely confused. So much so that Lu Shihua did not notice that this conversation itself was a bit against the rules. Logically speaking, when Lu Shihua sent a private message, no matter how much other people said, the low-level service intelligence would not talk to the other party, let alone answer the other party's questions. Sorry. I didn't consider this beforehand. Gu Xianyuan hurriedly comforted Lu Shihua's fragile heart. Then, she secretly communicated with Tamono Kakazi. From Tamono Kakazi's eyes, she confirmed that the other party was not lying. When this father option was necessary, Gu Xianyuan also felt a bit helpless. Of course, Gu Xianyuan knew that for Lu Shihua, having an inexplicable child was already very excessive. If he had another inexplicable father, and this information could not be hidden from that father, then Lu Shihua really did not have the courage and integrity to be a human. God knows if this father who suddenly appeared would be able to accept it after receiving the confirmation message from the system, like he had suddenly discovered a new continent. But the problem was that this father had to exist, and he had to actively confirm the confirmation message sent by the system. If she wanted Lu Shihua to continue, then she had to find a father that Lu Shihua could accept, and he himself could also accept that he suddenly had an illegitimate child. But the problem was that this father had to exist, and he had to actively confirm the confirmation message sent by the system. If she wanted Lu Shihua to continue, then she had to find a father that Lu Shihua could accept, and he himself could also accept that he suddenly had an illegitimate child. With these two conditions put together, other than a name, Gu Xianyuan could not think of a second name that Lu Shihua could accept. What? Lu Shihua was so scared that his whole body trembled. He looked at Gu Xianyuan in disbelief and said, "Sister, what did you say? Why did you say master's name? Don't play dumb in front of me. I said let Gohan be the child's father. Since it's his sister's scapegoat, I think Gohan would not object to it." Gu Xianyuan squinted her eyes and said, "Of course Gohan would not object to it. After all, this suggestion was put forward by Gohan." Lu Shihua was completely dumbfounded. He was stunned speechless. "What? You're not willing?" Gu Xianyuan looked at Lu Shihua and said, "That's right. Gohan is your master after all. This is a bit unjustifiable in terms of ethic. If you're not willing, then I'll go look for Ku Rakin. You also know him. He also owes my brother a favor. I think he would be willing to take this." "No!" Lu Shihua screamed out loud. Then he covered his face and said, "I don't want Ku Rakin. Just master." Chapter 1165. Lu Shihua shyly wrote down Gu Han's name in the father column, then raised her head to look at Gu Xianyuan, and asked with incomparable confusion, "Big Sister Xianyuan, have you really told Master about this matter? If Master really knows about this, he won't think that I've gone crazy, right? Don't worry. I've already told him everything." Gu Xianyuan smiled, then said to Tomono Kakaze, "Gohan has already said that he is the father of your child. He himself has already admitted it. Strange? Sister, why does it seem like you're talking to the highest AI?" Lu Shihua felt that Gu Xuanyuan's words were a little strange, but he didn't have time to think about it, as he was troubled by the next question. "Sister, what's the child's name?" As Lu Shihua asked Gu Xianyuan this question, he felt that this matter was really absurd. How did his life suddenly reach the point where he had to give his own child a name without any rhyme or reason? "Forget it, you can think of the name yourself, as long as it's not too strange." Gu Xianyuan generously handed the power of naming to Lu Shihua. "Oh!" Hearing Gu Xianyuan say this, Lu Shihua suddenly started to get excited. "Sister, should the child's surname be Gu?" "That doesn't matter, if you want to be surnamed Lu, it's fine. After all, this is an illegitimate child, and illegitimate children usually take the surname of the parent who raised them." Gu Xianyuan said, "No, I'll just take Master's surname." Regardless of Lu Shihua's little thoughts, she was like a little loli who had found a very fun toy, and started to name the first child in her life excitedly. "Gu Lingfeng. No, it's too ordinary. Gu Xia. No, it sounds too short. Gu Ruotian. Isn't it a little too domineering? Gu Meinyang. If I take this name, Sister Xianyuan will probably kill me." Dozens of names popped up in Lu Shihua's mind in an instant, but they were all rejected by Lu Shihua at the same time. When Gu Xianyuan was getting a little impatient, this little girl with complicated thoughts finally came up with a name that sounded more normal. "Sister, what do you think of the name Gu Shirhan?" Lu Shihua timidly asked Gu Xianyuan, for fear that the name would be rejected by Gu Xianyuan. "Not a bad name. This name will do." Gu Xianyuan nodded her head. She didn't say a word of nonsense, and directly approved the name Lu Shihua had chosen. What a joke! If Gu Xianyuan rejected this name now, wouldn't Lu Shihua have to spend dozens of minutes to think of the next name? Gu Xianyuan did not have so much time to waste here. Of course, the meaning hidden in the name that Lu Shihua came up with could not be hidden from Gu Xianyuan. The so-called Gu Shirhan could also be read as Gu Sihan. No wonder it meant that she missed Gohan. This reminded Gu Xianyuan of I Ching. The last time she met I Ching in the game, she told Gohan that her real title wasn't Jiandi, but Sihan Jiandi. From a certain point of view, Lu Shihua's and I Ching's names clashed. "Sister, when will the date of birth be changed?" After finally writing the child's name, the date of birth became a big problem for Lu Shihua. Lu Shihua didn't know which date to write. "What's today's date?" Gu Xianyuan suddenly asked Lu Shihua. "Today is December 24th, 3011. Lu Shihua answered after looking at the time. As a sword wielder, you have to be at least 18 years old. So let's write the date of birth as December 24th, 2993. Gu Xianyuan said very calmly. What? Lu Shihua couldn't help but tremble. Sister, you're not joking, are you? How can you write this date? Is there a problem with this date? Gu Xianyuan asked. Of course there is a problem. A few drops of cold sweat appeared on Lu Shihua's forehead. Sister, my birthday is October 16th, 2990. If Gu Shirhan's birthday is December 24th, 2993, doesn't that mean I gave birth to my first daughter when I was 3 years old and 2 months old? Who would believe this? Even a psychopath wouldn't believe it. Pfft. After Tomono Kakaze, who was pretending to be a low-level AI, heard that Lu Shihua was set to get pregnant and give birth at the age of 3, she couldn't control her emotions anymore and let out a burst of laughter. Lu Shihua was so scared that he quickly looked at Tomono Kakaze's position. Fortunately, Tomono reacted in time and quickly changed his face into a poker face. Only then did he barely avoid being suspected of being exposed. However, this also made Lu Shihua feel a little puzzled. A psychopath might not believe it, but it's enough for this guy to believe it. Gu Xianyuan glanced at Tomono Kakaze next to her. This highest-level AI looks very smart, but in fact it's the stupidest. As long as Gu Shirhan wasn't born earlier than you, even if she was born one day after your birthday. For the highest-level AI, it's in line with her core logic paradox, which means there's no problem at all. Really? Lu Shihua's face was full of disbelief. Whether it's true or not, why don't you just try it? Gu Xianyuan smiled. Anyway, there are no important options that I need to decide later. Hurry up and fill in those options, then upload them and see if this highest-level AI will approve your application. Oh! Even though he was extremely ashamed of being pregnant and giving birth at the age of 3, Lu Shihua couldn't change Gu Xuanyuan's fate at all. He obediently filled in all the options according to Gu Xuanyuan's instructions, and then handed the entire form up nervously. The basic information registration form of illegitimate children has been confirmed. Confirming the data in the form. Sending a confirmation message to the child's parents. Tomono Kakaze said mechanically. Soon, Lu Shihua's personal terminal received the confirmation of his mother's situation, and then he clicked on the confirmation button with trembling hands. Then he raised his head and looked at Tomono Kakaze blankly, wanting to know what was going on with his father. Don't worry. Gohan has agreed. Gu Xianyuan seemed to say this to comfort Lu Shihua, but in fact, this sentence was said to Tomono Kakaze. Because Gohan's personal terminal had been damaged, only when Gohan personally said the word agree to Tomono Kakaze, and then after the voice sprint comparison, could it officially take effect. The mother's situation has been confirmed. The father's situation has been confirmed. The illegitimate child's name has been confirmed. The illegitimate child's birthday has been confirmed. Tomono Kakaze said the confirmation of dozens of options in one breath. There was no hindrance in the middle, and it was so smooth that it completely exceeded Lu Shihua's expectations. Lu Shihua really didn't expect that such a ridiculous thing as giving birth at the age of 3 could actually be confirmed by the highest-level AI's logic. It was really a bit too ridiculous. All information has been confirmed. Please provide a drop of Gu Shirhan's blood for the collection of DNA information to make a personal terminal information. Tomono Kakaze said calmly, which meant that things had progressed to the final step. As long as she got a drop of Gu Shirhan's blood, she could successfully complete the production of a new personal terminal information. Generally speaking, to collect blood DNA information, one must go to the Personal Terminal Bureau to collect it. However, because Lu Shihua's personal terminal was a high-level personal terminal dedicated to the Sword Pavilion Master, it had the authority to collect DNA information. So as long as it was connected to the medical cabin, Lu Shihua's personal terminal could collect Gu Xuanyuan's personal DNA. In fact, this step was the most worrying part of Gu Xianyuan, because Gu Xianyuan didn't know whether her DNA and Gohan's DNA were exactly the same. If the DNA between the two was exactly the same, then the DNA collected in this way was bound to conflict with Gohan's DNA that was originally stored in the database. There was absolutely no DNA that was exactly the same in the world, so once such a situation occurred, the DNA verification would not pass, and Gu Xianyuan could only think of other ways. Fortunately, after Gu Xianyuan dripped her blood into the medical cabin, the DNA verification quickly passed Tomono Kakazi's review, and a new personal terminal information was also logged into Tomono Kakazi's database. Next, Gu Xianyuan only needed to enter Dunkirk Fortress, then find the personal terminal bureau of Dunkirk Fortress, and request to apply for a replacement for the lost personal terminal. Then, she would successfully have a real new identity. However, after that, Tomono Kakazi specifically told Gu Xianyuan that her DNA was 99.9% similar to Gu Xuanyuan's DNA, which was 0.9% away from the 99.99% standard that could identify the two as the same person. This was really a very thrilling thing. Hey, I'll have to trouble you two to deal with this guy. When Gu Xianyuan finally solved the problem of her identity, Li Bai's hearty voice came from outside the hovercraft. The two hurriedly got out of the hovercraft and saw a lively little girl in Li Bai's hand. He said with a distressed face, "Let me go. You damn Yuenko. Kill me, I, Harry Chong-Rua, will never surrender and admit defeat." The little girl in Li Bai's hand said loudly. No matter how you looked at it, she looked like a martyr who was ready to die a heroic death. It's him. Lu Shihua just felt a little familiar, but he couldn't remember what the little girl's name was. Gu Xianyuan, who was on the side, recognized at a glance. This little girl. Oh no. It's a young man. Isn't he the real Chong Rua from the auction house that I met in the game? He also fought alongside Gohan in the Shanghai Pass, the representative of London in the October 8th Assembly, Harry Chong Rua. Chapter 1166. Pavilion Master Lu Shihua, are you really the Pavilion Master of Yuzhong City's Sword Pavilion? When Li Bai threw Harry Chong Rua to Lu Shihua had spent a lot of effort to convince Harry that he was the Pavilion Master of Yuzhong City's Sword Pavilion. Pavilion Master Lu Shihua, why did you come all the way to London? Harry Chong Rua asked timidly like a little girl. I heard that Yuzhong City has just survived a major battle. Shouldn't Pavilion Master Lu Shihua be in Yuzhong City, doing reconstruction work? Well, Lu Shihua did not have the face to say that he had come all the way here to apologize to Long Jiandi. Just as he was hesitating to answer, Gu Xianyuan, who was standing next to him, said straightforwardly, "We are here on behalf of Yuzhong City to resolve the misunderstanding with Long Jiandi. It's about Lord Gohan, isn't it?" Harry Chong Rua suddenly revealed an embarrassed and ashamed expression. He lowered his head and said, "I know, this matter is not Sir Gohan's fault, Pavilion Master Lu Shihua, you really don't need to come over and apologize, this matter is our fault." Lu Shihua was very surprised to see Harry Chong Rua admit his mistake on his own initiative and look ashamed. As a sword-bearer of London, shouldn't he be trying his best to protect the glory of his base city? Why was he on Gohan's side now? I entered Shanghai Pass with Lord Gohan. Others might not know what Lord Gohan has done to Shanghai Pass, but those of us who fought in Shanghai Pass know it the best. This time, the sword spirit of the Hall of Swords and the headquarters of the Sword Committee have gone too far. We have been appealing to the headquarters of the Sword Committee on behalf of Lord Gohan, requesting that Lord Gohan's wanted order be lifted. Harry Chong Rua said something that surprised Lu Shihua and Gu Xianyuan. They never thought that Harry Chong Rua would not only sympathize with Gohan verbally, but he had already begun to seek justice for Gohan. Hearing such a thing, Lu Shihua might not be moved, but Gu Xianyuan, who was at the side, was filled with emotion. It seemed that his contributions to Shanghai Pass and humanity were not completely covered up by the darkness. There were still people who remembered his contributions. Alright. What happened just now? How did you get caught by Li Bai? Gu Xianyuan temporarily stopped the topic about Gohan and asked about what happened just now. I'm useless. Harry Chong Rua lowered his head in shame. I met a Yuan Ko on the way and wanted to get rid of the evil for the people. In the end, I wasn't a match for Yuan Ko at all. His swordsmanship was too powerful, and in the end, I was captured alive by him. By the way, why are you with this Yuan Ko? Were you also captured alive by him? That's not it. Lu Shihua spent a long time explaining to Harry Chong Rua about Li Bai. However, according to Gu Xuanyuan's instructions, he did not reveal anything about Yi Wenjun. He only said that she and Mu Shui, the sword spirit, went all the way to London, and then met Gu Shirhan on the way. In the end, they were chased by Yuan Ko, and Mu Shui, the sword spirit, died in battle. Just as Lu Shihua and Gu Shirhan were about to die in battle, Li Bai suddenly appeared and saved them. At the same time, Gu Xianyuan also carefully wanted to cover up the fact that Li Bai was a free person when he had just crossed over. She only said that Li Bai had been living in the mountains and did not have any contact with humans, Yuan Ko. Later, no one knew why, but Li Bai erased the filth in his body and became a free person. He also happened to save Lu Shihua and the others. Hence, he proposed to Lu Shihua that he wanted to become a human and join the human camp. Join us humans? Harry Changrua looked at Li Bai as if he had seen a fantasy, and then whispered in Lu Shihua's ear, "Pavilion Master, you're not joking, are you? Since ancient times, there has never been a case of Yuan Ko joining the human camp. What if he is a liar and only deceives humans to enter the Bay City? I can't do anything about it. Who asked him to be so sincere?" Lu Shihua showed a helpless expression. "We don't have to worry about this matter. Just truthfully report everything to Long Shijiendi, and let Long Shijiendi and the Sword Committee make a decision." Gu Xianyuan interrupted. "That's true. This is really not a problem for us to worry about." Harry Changrua nodded and then said, "Pavilion Master Lu Shihua, you should be preparing to go to Dunkirk Fortress now, right?" "Yes." Lu Shihua nodded. "Then I'll lead the way for you. This can be considered as repaying you for saving my life." Harry Changrua smiled sweetly, and did not look like a boy at all. As a result, the fourth passenger appeared in the hover car. Gu Xianyuan and Li Bai sat in the front row of the hover car, while Harry Changrua and Lu Shihua squeezed into the back row. The two of them were tightly pressed together, and even talked intimately. Although Harry Changrua deliberately lowered his voice when he spoke, their conversation was still transmitted to Gu Xuanyuan's ears in full detail, causing Gu Xianyuan, who was driving, to feel a pain in the ass. This was because the topic of conversation between Harry Changrua and Lu Shihua was all focused on Gon. Harry Changrua seemed to know Lu Shihua very well, and knew that Lu Shihua was Gohan's disciple. So, after getting in the car, he kept asking Lu Shihua all kinds of questions about Gohan, and even some of Gohan's habits. He was simply full of curiosity about Gohan. Lu Shihua did not answer Harry Changrua's questions for nothing. Correspondingly, Lu Shihua also asked a lot about what happened to Gohan in Shanghai Pass. When he heard that Gohan had encountered great danger in Shanghai Pass countless times, his whole heart was in suspense, as if he had encountered such danger himself. However, Harry Changrua was the guardian of the Sun Star Garrison, and Gohan was the guardian of the Taiyin Star Garrison, so the two of them actually did not have much contact. According to Gu Xuanyuan's memory, the two of them had met no more than 5 times in Shanghai Pass. 3 of them were in battle, and 1 was in a meeting. There was only one time when they got together to chat in their free time. But the problem was that Harry Changrua had described Gu Han's story in Shanghai Pass so vividly, as if he had experienced it himself. These two people did not have much contact with each other, yet they could describe it so vividly. There was only one explanation for this, and that was that most of these stories were made up by Harry Chang-rua himself. For example, Harry Chang-rua said that Gohan had been ambushed in Shanghai Pass and had fallen into the encirclement of the Wu people. Gohan had protected dozens of his companions and fought against 100 enemies alone, and had even had his limbs broken by Quafu, and then by Jiufeng. Anyway, in Harry Chang-rua's story, Gohan's limbs had been broken at least 5 times, which was simply too horrible to look at. And what was even more ridiculous was that after Gohan's limbs were broken, all of the battles were won in the end. Gohan, with all of his limbs broken, had a mini-universe explosion, and then defeated his opponent. This kind of story that sounded full of loopholes, but Lu Shihua listened to it with relish. Time and time again, she was so scared that her face turned pale, and she even shed tears for her master. This made Gu Xianyuan, who was in front, feel even more annoyed. She wanted to rush to the back and seal Harry Chang-rua's mouth. After such a cordial conversation, the relationship between Lu Shihua and Harry Chang-rua began to warm up quickly, and soon they became close like best friends. The way they addressed each other also changed from Miss Chang-rua and Pavilion Master Shihua to Sister Chang-rua and Sister Shihua. Just as the two of them were happily talking about Gohan, Harry Chang-rua suddenly stopped talking and suddenly grabbed Lu Shihua's hands. He asked Lu Shihua nervously, "Sister Shihua, why do you think your master isn't logging into the game anymore? I haven't seen Military Governor come online for almost 2 years. I've joined more than a dozen fan groups of Military Governor, and 7 or 8 of them have already been disbanded. Master might be too busy, so he didn't have time to log in." Lu Shihua shivered all over, then turned her head and looked at Harry Chang-rua in disbelief. You? How did you know my master's identity?" "Oh, it seems that I guessed right," Harry Chang-rua said excitedly. "Let me tell you. This person's face can change, but the basic lines will not change. Although your master made a few scars in the game and deliberately made it ugly, the lines of his face did not change at all. When I saw Sir Gohan in real life, I already thought that he was Military Governor. Later, after some research, I found out that when Sir Gohan was outside, Military Governor had never come online. And when Sir Military Governor came online, Sir Gohan had never appeared, so I thought that Sir Military Governor was most likely Sir Gohan." After saying this, Harry Chang-rua's face showed an apologetic expression, and he muttered, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to trick you. I really wanted to confirm if Military Governor and Sir Gohan were the same person." "Why, Sister Chang-rua, why do you have to confirm the relationship between Sir Military Governor and Sir Gohan?" Lu Shihua asked curiously. Because. Harry Chang-rua pondered for a long time, then clenched his teeth. "Sister Shihua, you are the disciple of Military Governor, you must help me. What are you talking about?" Lu Shihua was confused. "If Military Governor and Sir Gohan are really the same person, then I will propose to Sir Gohan. I want to marry Sir Gohan." "What?" Lu Shihua's body stiffened, and he was so scared that his eyeballs almost fell out. At the same time, the maglev flying car that was originally moving smoothly suddenly twisted in an S-shape, and the inside of the car began to shake violently, almost throwing Harry Chang-rua out of the car. Chapter 1167. What's going on? Did Yuan Ko appear outside? After a moment of dizziness, Lu Shihua and Harry Chang-rua jumped up vigilantly. "No." Gu Xian pretended to be calm and said, "But Lu Shihua, I advise you to ask him what his gender is." "What's there to ask?" A question mark popped up in Lu Shihua's head. Could it be that little Sister Chang-rua is a boy? Ahem. Harry Chang-rua coughed and said embarrassedly, "I'm sorry, Sister Shihua. I'm indeed a boy." "Sister Shihua, age is not a problem, gender is not a problem. As long as I have a heart that loves Lord Gohan, there will be no problem. Sister Xihua, listen to me. Don't be bound by the old-fashioned values in the market. The key between people is not gender, but love. Sister Xihua, the opposite sex is only for reproduction, the same sex is for love. Sister Xihua, I promise that I will be even gentler than a real girl. Even if I have one less hole than a real girl, I still have two. I will definitely study hard and train hard. I guarantee that Lord Gohan will be happy to use me and have fun. Sister Xihua, if it really doesn't work, then I will go to the hospital for sex reassignment surgery. The technology is very advanced now, it can be done exactly like a real girl. No matter how much Harry Changrua tried to persuade Lu Xihua had a look of horror on his face as he cowered in the corner of the hovercraft like a little sheep. At the same time, he used his two-winged angel sword to press against Harry Changrua's chest, preventing the other party from getting within a meter of him. Oh my God! I was actually with such a pervert just now. Lu Xihua thought sadly. Sigh. Xihua, don't be too nervous. Actually, I think what this little brother said makes sense. In our world, men and men are very normal things. Even the emperor has dozens of young husbands, it's not a big deal. However, what Gu Xian did not expect was that as an ancient person, Li Bai was very open-minded about this. He did not seem to be surprised at all. She did not know what kind of society the Tang dynasty was, really. It was as if Harry Changrua had found a like-minded friend. He pounced on Li Bai, who was sitting in front of him. Before Harry Changrua could finish speaking, an iron sword was placed on his neck. Bai is talking about the emperor, not himself. You'd better stay away from Bai. Li Bai said nervously. You're all bad people. Harry Changrua suddenly slumped back like a deflated ball. However, perhaps because he was used to being beaten, Harry Changrua quickly cheered up again. He waved his little fist and said, None of you mean what you said. Sir Gohan will definitely understand my heart. Don't worry, I guarantee that Gohan will never like you for the rest of his life. Gu Xianyuan coldly said. Why? What right do you have to say that? Do you have any evidence? Harry Changrua retorted unwillingly. Because I'm her sister. Although Gu Xianyuan wanted to say that, she considered that Gu Xuanyuan's wanted order should have been spread all over the Bay cities. A guy like Harry Changrua should already know that Gu Xianyuan was Gohan's sister. If the fact that she was Gohan's sister was exposed, Gu Xuanyuan's identity would probably be exposed as well. Thinking of this, Gu Xianyuan swallowed her words and directly pushed Harry Changrua back with a backhand strike. We're here. We're here. When a blood-red castle appeared in the distance, Harry Changrua, who was sitting in the back seat, shouted excitedly. This meant that Gu Xianyuan and the others had finally arrived at Dunkirk Fortress. Dunkirk Fortress was a typical British-style fortress. Unlike Yuzhong City's walls, which were purely made of dimensional alloy, Dunkirk Fortress's walls were made of handmade bricks. In order to ensure that these bricks could withstand Yuan Ko's attack, the bricks were made of clay and dimensional alloy powder. Such bricks were very troublesome to make, and they were far less sturdy than dimensional alloy concrete. However, there was no other way. This was the purest British style. Without these handmade red bricks, this wouldn't be London. In addition to the most eye-catching red dimensional alloy bricks, the wooden roofs, herringbone sloping roofs, and glazed windows were all the most prominent British style. This indeed looked like a completely different world from Yuzhong City. Looking at the scenery in front of him, Li Bai suddenly jumped out of the car and spread his arms as if he wanted to hug the entire Dunkirk fortress. At the same time, Li Bai opened his mouth wide. Seeing Li Bai like this, Harry Changrua was very curious, while Gu Xianyuan and Lu Xihua looked as if they were used to it. After spending more than 10 days with Li Bai, Gu Xianyuan was already very familiar with such a scene. Once Li Bai opened his arms and wanted to hug something, it meant that this great poet was in a good mood and was about to recite a poem. The towering palace shrouds the red sand, and the black canal's top looks at the horizon. I've traveled 1,000 miles on the British road to find who Ma Sai's ecstasy. Sure enough, Li Bai recited 4 lines of a 7-character ancient poem. Sister Shihua, what does this mean? Harry Changrua was stunned when he heard this, and turned to ask Lu Shihua. I don't know either. Lu Shihua shook her head in confusion, then turned to Gu Xianyuan. Ahem. It means that the buildings in London are very unique, and the scenery is also very good. I've traveled thousands of miles to come here, so I have to bring some local products back. Gu Xianyuan explained half-truthfully. Of course, she was embarrassed to say that Li Bai wanted to have an ecstasy with some blonde, blue-eyed, big-breasted women. Forget it. Let's go into the city. After listening to Gu Xuanyuan's explanation, Harry Changrua suddenly felt that this poem was very boring. In addition, Gu Xianyuan and the others kept a respectful distance from Harry Changrua and did not understand him. Harry Changrua did not want to continue with these people. He just wanted to bring them into Dunkirk Fortress as soon as possible, which could be considered as repaying them for saving his life, although the murderer who caught her was also among them. That's right. Come with me. Harry Changrua suddenly walked to Li Bai's side and said, I've reported your matter to the London Sword Committee. After His Majesty Jiandi heard about it, he instructed you to go to London with me alone. At that time, there will be someone to receive you and discuss how to deal with your request. When Li Bai heard Harry Changrua's words, he immediately turned his gaze to Gu Xianyuan. Obviously, he hoped that Gu Xianyuan could make a decision for him and tell him whether he should follow Harry Changrua or not. Actually, I still think it's better for you to go directly to the Freedom City. There's no need to get involved with us humans. Right now, the internal affairs of humans are a mess. I don't know how you'll end up. Anyway, if you really meet His Majesty Longsher Jiandi, you're definitely not his opponent. Gu Xianyuan said sincerely. Ha ha! Li Bai laughed. It's okay. I'm a human, not a freelancer. Even if I die, it won't change this fact. Then go with him. Gu Xianyuan sighed. You have a 70% chance of surviving. Thank you. Li Bai cupped his hands at Gu Xianyuan and left with Harry Changrua. Looking at the direction in which they were heading, they did not directly enter Dunkirk Fortress. Obviously, Longsher Jiandi had used his privileges to open up a special line for Li Bai, so that Li Bai could take a boat to England without entering the dock of Dunkirk Fortress. Lu Shihua and Gu Xianyuan did not have such privileges. They could only put the maglev flying car into their dimensional pocket at a distance of 500 meters from Dunkirk Fortress and then walk into Dunkirk Fortress. Although Dunkirk Fortress was located on the main road between London and Berlin and was the only way to connect the two cities, it was reasonable to say that the traffic should be very busy. But after all, this was a fortress only for sword-bearers, so the real flow of people was still very sparse. Gu Xianyuan and Lu Shihua did not queue up and directly entered the gate inspection of Dunkirk Fortress. Please show me your personal terminals. Although the fact that they could pass through the dimensional wall of Dunkirk Fortress proved that they were two pure humans, the guards of Dunkirk Fortress still dutifully asked to check Lu Shihua and Gu Xuanyuan's personal terminals. Lu Shihua first scanned her personal terminal on the scanner. The two guards also glanced at the scanner out of habit and said, "You're not from London. You must take the initiative to link to the database of your city. Please open up your access to us." Okay. Lu Shihua nodded and opened up her access. Only then did she remember that different cities did not have the right to access the genetic data and information of each other's cities. The holder of the personal terminal must take the initiative to open up their access. The two guards immediately took another look at the scanner. With just one look, the two guards immediately shivered and stood at attention. They raised their left hands to their temples and said respectfully, "Good afternoon, Lord Pavilion Master. Welcome to our Dunkirk fortress, Pavilion Master. It turned out that the two guards had become so respectful when they saw Lu Shihua's identity displayed on the scanner. Hello. Lu Shihua also nodded to the two guards, then pointed to Gu Xianyuan behind him and said, "This is my companion, but her personal terminal was completely destroyed during the battle. Do you want to check her DNA?" The two guards looked at each other hesitantly. "It's okay. Let's check it." Gu Xianyuan took the initiative to say and then dripped a drop of blood on the DNA test. Soon, the detector lit up green, and Gu Xuanyuan's basic information also appeared on the detector. "Good afternoon, Master Gu Shirhan." The two guards took a cursory look at the detector and said immediately, then took the initiative to let them go. This allowed Gu Xianyuan to heave a sigh of relief in her heart. Although Kakashi Tamono had already successfully entered her information, when she saw that the detector had successfully detected her information, she completely forgot about Kakashi Tamono. Oh no, Gu Shirhan was relieved. Chapter 1168. After Gu Xianyuan and Lu Shihua left, one of the guards said in disbelief, "I say, brother, did the two of us see wrongly just now? Was that really Yuzhong City's Sword Pavilion's Lord Pavilion Master? Isn't that obvious? The information on the personal terminal is written clearly. What's there to doubt?" Another guard said. "But why would the Master of the Sword Pavilion from Yuzhong City appear in our Dunkirk fortress? Didn't I hear that the Master of the Sword Pavilion has to guard the Sword Pavilion at all times and can't leave the base city for a long time? Besides, if a big shot like the Master of the Sword Pavilion is here, the commander of the knights in our fortress should at least come out to greet him. Why did he come without a sound?" "He's just like an ordinary person with a sword," the guard said again. "Maybe he has some secret mission," another guard speculated. "But you've reminded me that we have to report this to our superiors." After that, the guard went into the duty room to report the appearance of the Master of the Sword Pavilion in Yuzhong City. The guard who stayed outside whispered to himself, "That woman named Gu Shirhan looks familiar. I feel like I've seen her somewhere before." It didn't take much effort to successfully enter Dunkirk Fortress. Although the fortress was full of exotic scenery, it was a pity that Gu Xianyuan wasn't in the mood to enjoy the scenery at all. She brought Lu Shihua to the Personal Terminal Administration in Dunkirk Fortress to apply for a new personal terminal. As soon as they arrived at the entrance of the Personal Terminal Administration, a very embarrassing thing happened. There were two dynamic video posters on the entrance of the Personal Terminal Administration, and the dynamic video posters kept repeating the images of wanted humans. About a dozen human images appeared on the video posters in a loop. The two people who stayed on the video the longest were naturally Gohan and Gu Xianyuan. "Sister, what should we do? Do we still go in?" Gu Xianyuan didn't disguise her appearance. Her appearance was no different from the appearance on the video poster, even her hairstyle was the same. So when Lu Shihua saw the video poster, he became very worried. He was afraid that Gu Xuanyuan's identity would be exposed. "It's okay. As long as the information on the personal terminal is there won't be any problem," Gu Xianyuan said confidently. This was also the reason why Gu Xianyuan tried so hard to create a new identity on the personal terminal. With the development of black technology, plastic surgery technology had become increasingly perfect. Anyone could easily have plastic surgery to look like another person. The only thing that could not be changed was DNA. In order to prevent malicious situations such as impersonation, the Sword Pavilion had set a strict rule: only the personal terminal would be recognized. So, even if Gu Xuanyuan's appearance hadn't changed, as long as the information on the personal terminal showed that she wasn't Gu Xianyuan, she wouldn't be in any danger. Sure enough, the moment Gu Xianyuan appeared in the Personal Terminal Administration Bureau, all the staff inside went into extreme panic and vigilance. Some staff even prepared to call the police. But when Gu Xianyuan showed her DNA and confirmed it with the personal information in the database, these staff could only believe that the person in front of them was not the wanted Gu Xianyuan, but an 18-year-old girl named Gu Shirhan. And what surprised these staff was that Gu Shirhan's personal information, except for a few data such as her name, was all encrypted, and it seemed that the level of encryption was very high, at least SS-level encryption. It seems that the identity of this girl named Gu Shirhan is very unusual. Maybe she's the woman of some big shot. These staff secretly guessed. But no one dared to imagine that Gu Shirhan would be the biological daughter of another 21-year-old girl in front of them. Although it was only a biological daughter on the information, although they were still confused in their hearts, the real data was in front of them. These staff of the Personal Terminal Administration Bureau had nothing to say. They could only start to apply for a personal terminal for Gu Xianyuan according to the prescribed procedures. Soon, a brand new personal terminal with London's characteristic patterns and style appeared on Gu Xianyuan's wrist. This also meant that Gu Xianyuan once again got rid of the state of a lonely ghost without a personal terminal, and once again became a person with an official identity. Let's go. After completing the task, Gu Xianyuan was ready to leave the Personal Terminal Administration Bureau with Lu Shihua, but she didn't expect that when the two of them just walked to the door, a tall strong man on a horse stopped in front of them. Sir Knight. Seeing this strong man blocking the door, the staff of the Personal Terminal Administration Bureau hurriedly said. Gu Xianyuan's heart lit up when she heard the title of Sir Knight. Sir Knight was a military position unique to the City of London, and it was also a military position that only spirit sword wielders could obtain. There was no doubt that this strong man in front of her should be the supreme leader of the Dunkirk fortress. I heard that the master of the sword Garrett of Yuzhong City came to our Dunkirk fortress, but I didn't go to the city gate to greet you. It was rude of me. Please forgive me, master. The Sir Knight hit his chest with his fist, then bowed to Lu Shihua. Although she didn't know if the Sir Knight's etiquette was sincere, his movements were undoubtedly very standard, and there was no fault to be found. Greetings! Lu Shihua panicked and was about to return the Sir Knight's salute, but he was grabbed by Gu Xianyuan behind him. Only then did he come to his senses. He was the master of the sword Garrett of Yuzhong City. It didn't matter if he returned the salute to the Sir Knight in private, but on such an official first meeting occasion, he must not return the salute. Otherwise, he would lose the face of Yuzhong City. Hee. Seeing Lu Shihua's reaction, the Sir Knight frowned tightly. His tall body took a step forward, forcing Lu Shihua, who was about to go out, to take a step back. May I know why Master Lu Shihua has come to my Dunkirk fortress? The Sir Knight asked domineeringly. I am responsible for guarding the east gate of the City of London, and I shoulder the heavy responsibility of the safety of the City of London. Although you are the master of the sword Garrett of Yuzhong City, I still have to ask clearly so that I can report to His Majesty Long Shurjiendi. Forced by the other party's imposing manner, Lu Shihua subconsciously wanted to answer the question, but he was grabbed by Gu Xianyuan again. Gu Xianyuan said coldly, only the master of the sword Garrett of London, the chairman of the sword committee, or His Majesty Long Shurjiendi are qualified to communicate with us about the secrets of our Yuzhong City and the City of London. Other people will not accompany us. You. Hearing Gu Xianyuan's words, the Sir Knight suddenly clenched his fists angrily and looked at the other party. This was the first time he seriously looked at the other party's appearance, and then he was stunned for a moment. His bearded mouth opened wide and said in surprise, Gu Xianyuan, how dare you show up here? Wipe your eyes and look clearly, otherwise I will sue you for slander. Gu Xianyuan said angrily. No, you are Gu Xianyuan, I can't be wrong. I look at your appearance dozens of times a day. This is absolutely not wrong. You are Gu Xianyuan. The Sir Knight's mood instantly became extremely agitated, so agitated that he was about to fly to the sky, as if Gu Xianyuan was the enemy who killed her father. Did I offend him? He looks at it dozens of times a day. Gu Xuanyuan's face stiffened, and she repeated again, I am not Gu Xianyuan. If you don't believe me, you can ask these people. Is that so? The Sir Knight raised his head and looked at the staff. The staff immediately nodded and said, This girl is right. She is not Miss Gu Xianyuan, her name is Gu Shirhan. We just gave her a personal terminal. This is not wrong. You are really not Miss Gu Xianyuan? The Sir Knight showed a somewhat dejected expression and muttered to himself, It's a pity, a pity, a pity. Well, we can go now. We have an appointment with His Majesty Long Shurjiendi. We will arrive in London before tomorrow afternoon to hold a meeting with His Majesty Long Shurjiendi. Now get out of the way, we have to rush to the dock and go to London immediately. Gu Xianyuan said impatiently. Of course, this was completely Gu Xuanyuan's excuse. From the beginning to the end, Gu Xianyuan did not discuss anything with Long Shurjiendi, so the meeting tomorrow afternoon and so on were even more fabricated out of thin air. However, Gu Xianyuan was sure that the Sir Knight would not go to Long Shurjiendi to confirm this point. Sure enough, the Sir Knight very directly believed Gu Xuanyuan's words. The Yuzhong City Sword Pavilion Master suddenly appeared here. Any normal person's first reaction would be to think that the other party must have some secret discussion with their superiors, and it was only natural that they would meet immediately. However, the Sir Knight did not seem to want to let Gu Xianyuan and Lu Shihua leave. Instead, he used his majestic body to block the door and said excitedly, How about this? It's getting late. You can stay in Dunkirk Fortress for the night. Tomorrow morning, I'll send you to London on my private cruise ship. I guarantee that both of you will arrive in London before tomorrow afternoon. What the hell is this guy hiding in his heart? Gu Xianyuan found that although the Sir Knight was talking to Lu Shihua, his eyes were always on her, as if she was much more important than the Yuzhong City Sword Pavilion Master, which gave Gu Xianyuan an ominous premonition. We have to get out of here immediately. Gu Xianyuan thought to herself, but the Sir Knight was indeed at the door. If they did not find a way to get him out of the way, Gu Xianyuan and Lu Shihua would not be able to leave the Personal Terminal Administration Bureau. Open. Gu Xianyuan was too lazy to care about anything else. She directly placed her hand on the commander's stomach. Before the commander could react, he felt a violent impact on his abdomen. Then his whole body flew more than 10 meters away and directly crashed into the house on the opposite side of the street. The impact caused a few cracks to appear on the sturdy house. Let's go. Gu Xianyuan ignored the Sir Knight, who was moaning at the side, and directly left with Lu Shihua. I found out he is called the Sword of Strife, the Sir Knight of Dunkirk Fortress. Lu Shihua suddenly said. It seemed that she was just looking up the information of the Sir Knight. Chapter 1169. How could this be? Looking at the empty dock, Lu Shihua let out a cry of disbelief. When Lu Shihua and Gu Xianyuan arrived at the dock of Dunkirk Fortress and were ready to board the ship to London, the staff at the dock told Lu Shihua helplessly that the last ferry of the day had left, and there were no more ferries that could go to London in the entire Dunkirk Fortress. Didn't it say that the last ferry is at 5 p.m.? Lu Shihua pointed at the bulletin board on the side of the dock and said with dissatisfaction, It's only 4:30 p.m. Why is the last ferry gone? Sir, you don't know, but the situation today is a little special. 3 ferries are broken at the same time and are being repaired in the shipyard, so the last ferry has to give up, the staff said with a bitter smile. Gu Xianyuan looked at all this coldly. She was not a fool. With the current technology of mankind, a damaged ferry could be repaired in a day at most. In other words, these 3 ferries were all damaged today. 3 ferries were damaged at the same time, and it just happened that she and Lu Shihua could not go to London. Such a coincidence was too much of a coincidence. Even a fool could see that there must be a mastermind behind all this. That ship is not broken, right? Can we take that ship? Lu Shihua pointed at a pure white cruise that looked extremely luxurious in the distance and said. The staff shook his head awkwardly. This is our Lord Knight's private cruise. Without our Lord Knight's permission, no one can use that cruise. Esteemed Pavilion Master Lu Shihua, what happened? At this moment, the Lord Knight of Dunkirk Fortress, the sword spirit of strife, appeared beside Lu Shihua and Gu Xianyuan and asked politely. Reporting to Lord Knight. There was an accident at the dock today, and the last ferry couldn't leave, so the two of you may not understand. The staff at the dock took the initiative to answer. The Lord Knight immediately patted the staff's shoulder in dissatisfaction and reprimanded. How are you doing your job? Why are you so careless and meticulous? Why is there such a problem? What if you delay our Lord Lu Shihua's work? I think you don't even need to collect this month's bonus. Just deduct all of it and give it to those orphans and widows as consolation money. Yes, sir. The staff replied bitterly. After punishing his subordinates, Strife once again came to Gu Xuanyuan's side and said apologetically, I'm really sorry about this. It's all because we didn't do our job well. How about I treat everyone to a meal of authentic British cuisine in Dunkirk Fortress, and then I'll invite both of you to stay in my mayor's mansion tonight. I'll personally send you to London tomorrow morning. How about that? At the very least, I have to admit that Strife's attitude is excellent and good. It's a world of difference from when he was blocking the Personal Terminal Administration Bureau. Sir Knight, isn't it a little too harsh to deduct a month's worth of bonuses? Gu Xianyuan seemed to be defending the workers. What are you talking about? These workers didn't do their job well, and they weren't careful enough. Of course, they should be punished for their mistakes. Strife said matter-of-factly. But isn't the reason why these 3 ferries were damaged because of your order, Sir Head Knight? Gu Xianyuan suddenly blurted out this sentence. How did you know that it was me? Cough cough. Miss Gu Shirhan, you can't just say that. These ferries are the property of our Dunkirk fortress. Why would I deliberately damage them? Fortunately, Strife reacted quickly. Otherwise, Gu Xianyuan would have dragged him into the ditch again. Humph. Since there was no evidence, Gu Xianyuan did not want to dwell on this issue. Instead, she pointed at Strife's white ferry and said, Why do we have to depart tomorrow morning? Can I trouble Sir Knight to send us to London right now? Now. Strife's expression froze. After pausing for a while, he said, Is it a little dangerous to depart now? If we depart now, it will be almost 10 o'clock at night when we arrive in London. If we sail at night, we may encounter some unknown dangers. Who knows, some seafolk Yuan Ko might attack us. Also, I have some fortress work that I haven't finished yet. I have to work overtime tonight. I see. Gu Xianyuan nodded. Since Sir Knight has to work overtime, we dare not disturb you. Pavilion Master Shihua and I will find a place to eat and sleep. Sir Knight, you don't have to worry about us. After Gu Xianyuan finished speaking, she pulled Lu Shihua and prepared to leave. Sigh. This. Forget it. Forget it. Can't we depart now? Strife wanted to forcefully pull Gu Xianyuan to stop her from leaving. However, he remembered that he was sent flying by Gu Xuanyuan's palm when he was at the entrance of the Personal Terminal Administration Bureau. He could not help but shiver all over his body. He had no choice but to change his words. Then I'll have to trouble Sir Knight. Gu Xianyuan smiled happily. Her beautiful smile was like a spring breeze sweeping across the land. Looking at our Sir Knight, he was intoxicated. So this is the sea. It's so beautiful. It's the first time I've seen the sea with my own eyes. Lu Shihua and Gu Xianyuan stood at the bow of the white cruise ship. They leaned on the railing and looked at the sparkling blue sea. As an inland city, Yuzhang City was thousands of kilometers away from the sea. Along the way, there were all kinds of Yuan Ko and all kinds of dangers. Therefore, other than some Yuzhang sword-bearers, 99.5% of the people in Yuzhang City had never seen the real sea in their lives. They had only seen it in games or on TV. Even the sea scenes in the TV series were all computer-generated. They were not real scenes of the sea at all. This was because no crew had the ability and courage to bring a large group of people to the seaside to shoot a TV series. Although Lu Shihua had been a sword-bearer for more than 3 years, she had never left Yuzhang City in these 3 years. Therefore, this was the first time in her life that she had seen the sea that she had longed for a long time. At this moment, Lu Shihua was almost intoxicated by the beautiful sea scenery. If it wasn't for Master, I'm afraid I would never have the chance to see the real sea in my life. After the intoxication, Guhan's face suddenly appeared in Lu Shihua's mind. At the same time, her heart was filled with gratitude. If it wasn't for Guhan who took Lu Shihua as his disciple and the double-winged angel sword was hidden in the faraway Yanjing city, with Lu Shihua's character, she would never have the chance to become a sword-bearer in her life. She would never have the chance to see the magnificent sea. Sister Xianyuan, have you seen the sea before? Lu Shihua suddenly asked Gu Xianyuan curiously. Me? Gu Xianyuan thought for a moment and shook her head. This is also my first time seeing the sea. Hey, 2 beautiful ladies, would you like a glass of sweet and fragrant champagne? The Spirit of Strife was holding a bottle of champagne in his right hand and 3 glasses in his left hand. He greeted them with a smile on his face. At this time, the Spirit of Strife had already taken off his heavy night suit. Or rather, he was only wearing a pair of colorful beach shorts with coconut tree patterns printed on it. His naked body revealed his standard 8-pack abs and his sharp mermaid lines. The Knight Captain had completely changed into a seaside outfit. No. Gu Xianyuan instinctively wanted to refuse. She glanced at the corner of her eyes and saw Lu Shihua's lips swallowing unnaturally. She remembered that Lu Shihua had never tasted the taste of champagne in her life. So, she changed her mind and said, "All right, let's try a glass." Okay. The Spirit of Strife swiftly poured 2 glasses of champagne for Gu Xianyuan and Lu Shihua. Lu Shihua took the glass of champagne and took a sip. When she realized that the wine was not as choking as she imagined, she began to sip it slowly. A glass of champagne could probably last her for 5 to 6 minutes. Compared to the graceful Lu Shihua, Gu Xianyuan was much more straightforward. She poured a full glass of champagne straight into her stomach. Because she was too fast and straightforward, some of the champagne couldn't completely enter Gu Xuanyuan's mouth. Instead, it slid down her chin and neck, and finally disappeared between her breasts that were covered by her top. The champagne water that slid down her body reflected Gu Xuanyuan's smooth and tender skin, giving off a charming and alluring glow, just like the colorful neon lights in the middle of the night. Gulp! The Spirit of Strife gulped down a mouthful of saliva and then gulped down a large glass of champagne to suppress the desire in her heart. Here you go. Gu Xianyuan threw the glass back to the Spirit of Strife. When the Spirit of Strife caught the glass in a flurry, he suddenly realized that Gu Xuanyuan's left hand was holding a gleaming sword. Strange! At that moment, the Spirit of Strife realized that ever since he met Gu Xianyuan, she had been holding the sword in her left hand. She had never put it down. Miss Gu Shihan, what's wrong with your sword, Maiden? Why do you keep holding it in your hand? Why don't you just release your sword, Maiden? It'll be more convenient for you. The Spirit of Strife said. That won't do, Gu Xianyuan said coldly. As long as this sword is in my hand, I can cut down anything that tries to harm me in an instant. SSS. The Spirit of Strife took a deep breath and instinctively clamped her legs together. Chapter 1170. The sky quickly darkened, and in the blink of an eye, it was already dark night. Lu Shihua, who had drunk a few glasses of champagne, had already returned to his room in the cruise ship to rest. Gu Xianyuan was still sitting on the deck of the cruise ship, watching the dark surroundings with cold eyes. Gu Xianyuan did not leave the deck because she was trying to look cool. Just like what the commander said, The night was Yuan Ko's paradise. For a cruise ship sailing on the sea, the night was the greatest danger. There was no guarantee that there would be ignorant merfolk pirates planning to attack the cruise ship. Although the probability of this was very small, Gu Xianyuan still decided to stay alert. Anyway, they would arrive in London before 10 o'clock at night, so it wouldn't be too late to sleep then. Commander, why are you standing there sneakily? We are all sensible people. Let's sit down and talk. Gu Xianyuan said to a dark place. Immediately, a rhythmic footstep was heard. Then, the spirit of strife appeared in front of Gu Xianyuan and sat down. Sir Head Knight, you've tried so hard to stay with us today. What is your plan? Gu Xianyuan went straight to the point. The sword spirit of strife had been behaving abnormally for the whole day. He had been scheming to spend the night with Gu Xianyuan. This made Gu Xianyuan very unhappy and dissatisfied. She could not wait to chop this lecher into pieces with her sword. Miss Sherhan, please don't worry. I, Macbeth, have no other intentions. I just want to find a chance to talk to you, Miss Sherhan. Macbeth was the real name of the spirit of strife. Then what do you want to talk about? Gu Xianyuan asked. Then I will be straightforward. May I know what is the relationship between Miss Gu Sherhan and Miss Gu Xianyuan? The spirit of strife said with a sincere face. Please tell me the truth. Your appearance can't fool anyone. Why? Do you also want to capture my sister and go to the sword committee to receive the reward? Gu Sherhan said coldly. However, this sentence also explained her identity. Gu Xianyuan was Gu Sherhan's sister. In this case, the problem of their similar appearance could be explained. No. I definitely don't have such thoughts. I can swear to the heavens. Macbeth waved his hands and muttered to himself happily, I guessed so too. You and Miss Gu Xianyuan must be twin sisters, right? Gu Sherhan vaguely responded, but at the same time, she felt a burst of sourness in her heart. Gu Han, Gu Xianyuan, and Gu Sherhan, who would have thought that these three siblings were all the same person. Moreover, even Gu Han couldn't be sure that in the future, these three siblings wouldn't become the fourth or fifth siblings. For Gu Han, this was a very ridiculous and helpless matter. Then, Miss Sherhan, can you tell me where Miss Gu Xianyuan is now? The strife sword spirit asked eagerly. What do you want to do? Gu Xianyuan asked in a very vigilant manner. Miss Sherhan, don't be nervous. I don't have any bad intentions. In fact, I'm on Miss Gu Xuanyuan's side. I'm on your sister's side. Strife immediately said nervously. You're on my sister's side? Gu Xianyuan was so angry that she almost wanted to slap Strife's face. Since when did this big and stupid guy become one of her people? It was so disgusting. Of course. Your sister might not know me. Strife smiled awkwardly and then clicked on his personal terminal, projecting a screen in front of Gu Xianyuan. Gu Xianyuan carefully looked at the screen and found that it was a chat window of a QQ group. At the top of the QQ page was the words, Love Gu Xianyuan the most. Our Goddess Forever Superfan Support Group. On the list of members in the lower right corner of the group, Strife's online name, World War, appeared at the top of the list of members. There was also a logo of the group owner in front of the name. Strife was obviously the owner of this group. Looking at the chat content in the group, almost all of them were supporting Gu Xianyuan. At the same time, they felt that it was unfair for Gu Xianyuan. At the same time, they scolded the people from the Sword Committee Association for being stupid bastards. It was better to kill that shameless bastard Shi Jueyuan. How dare they put a bounty on their goddess Gu Xianyuan? There were also some group members who asked around who knew where Gu Xianyuan was. They actually planned to go to Gu Xuanyuan's side and protect her with their own bodies. There were also some who were contacting the group members, so they planned to hold a demonstration and protest to the Sword Committee Association, asking to withdraw the bounty on Gu Xianyuan. Anyway, everyone in the group was talking about Gu Xianyuan. They had an attitude that they could not wait to die for Gu Xianyuan. Of course, there was also a disharmonious guy. This guy suddenly posted a document called 33 Days of Crazy Love Between Goddess Gu Xianyuan and I. He also said in the group that he spent 3 days and 3 nights writing this article, and he could masturbate 10 times just by reading this article. This son of a bitch. Bastard. Seeing that someone suddenly posted such a disharmonious article, Strife was so angry that he stomped his feet. He then kicked the guy out of the group in front of Gu Xianyuan. Soon, a QQ notification rang. A person had sent a chat to Strife alone. Looking at the profile picture of the person in the chat, it was obviously the guy who was kicked out of the group by Strife. This guy was actually a good friend of Strife. It seemed that the two of them had a good relationship with each other. Gu Xianyuan looked at Strife with a meaningful gaze. Strife stared at her so much that he could not even lift his head. However, Gu Xianyuan also noticed that on the QQ group list, the spirit of Strife was not just a member of this group. There were more than 8 fan groups that were related to Gu Xianyuan. Other than that, Gu Xianyuan was surprised to find that the spirit of Strife was also in 2 fan groups with the commander's name written on it. This spirit of Strife was actually a fan of the commander. So this guy is my biggest fan? A very fanatical one. Gu Xianyuan looked at the sword spirit of Strife with mixed feelings. She did not know how she should treat him. Miss Shirhan, you saw the chat just now. Other than that disharmonious guy, all of us are the most loyal fans of Miss Xianyuan. All of us want to do something for Miss Xianyuan. Please tell us where Miss Xianyuan is now. We will immediately organize a team to protect Miss Xianyuan. Strife said firmly. Why did you become my sister's fan? Gu Xianyuan did not answer Strife's question. Instead, she asked another question out of curiosity. I don't know about others, but my reason is very simple. I admire the strong. Strife said without hesitation. I have watched all of Miss Gu Xianyuan's battle videos in Yuzhong City. She is so powerful that I will never be able to catch up to her in 10 lifetimes. When Miss Xianyuan defeated the giant, the moment the sun shone on her body, I felt like I saw a real goddess. I, Macbeth, admire the strong the most in my life. That is why I have become Miss Xianyuan's most loyal fan. Strife said sincerely with a hint of intoxication. I'm afraid that the most important thing is still my sister's looks. If my sister only has strength but not looks, I'm afraid that Strife wouldn't even think of her as a goddess. Gu Xianyuan snorted coldly. No. No. Strife panicked when he heard that. If he left such a bad impression on his goddess, he would be done for. So he quickly explained, I really admire Miss Xianyuan's strength. It has nothing to do with her appearance. Is that so? Gu Xianyuan pouted. I can responsibly tell you that my brother Gohan is even more powerful than my sister. Why don't you join my brother Gohan's fan club then? About that. Strife was speechless for a moment. But he quickly reacted and said, This is because there are too few videos of Comrade Gohan on the internet. I did not know that Comrade Gohan has such strength. Don't worry. I will immediately become Comrade Gohan's most loyal fan. I guarantee that I will be the most loyal. Strife said and immediately entered the keyword Gohan into the QQ search engine. In the end, something that made Gu Xianyuan a little embarrassed happened. In the search engine, there was only one Gohan's fan club. On the contrary, there were dozens of Gu Xianyuan's fan club. It's fine. One group is enough. Strife felt very embarrassed as well. He quickly applied to join the only Gohan's fan club. The fan club was a group that could be directly joined without any verification. After entering the group, Gu Xianyuan found that there were less than 100 members in the group. The avatar of the leader of the group was very familiar to Gu Xianyuan. That was Lu Shihua's QQ avatar. Forget it. Gu Xianyuan rolled his eyes and said helplessly, My sister destroyed her personal terminal. I don't know where she is now. It's useless for you to ask me. I see. Strife had a sad expression on his face when he heard Gu Xuanyuan's words. But I can tell you one thing. An idea popped up in Gu Xuanyuan's mind. I know that my sister will definitely go to Glastonbury for a while. So, I came to London this time to meet up with my sister at Glastonbury. If you really want to see my sister, you should go to Glastonbury. Glastonbury. Strife's face suddenly showed a look of fear when he heard the name of the place. This made Gu Xianyuan curious. Could it be that something had happened to Glastonbury? Just as Gu Xianyuan was about to ask for an explanation, the white cruise ship that was sailing peacefully suddenly began to shake violently. In an instant, the ship flipped more than 30 degrees, catching Strife off guard and sending him crashing into the guardrail of the ship. Yuan Ko. I actually King bumped into Yuan Ko. Strife struggled to get up from the deck. At the same time, a light flashed in his hand and a fiery red female knight was released. Chapter 1171. Don't be afraid, Miss Gu Shirhan. I'll deal with these damned Yuan Ko. The Strife sword spirit, Macbeth, said loudly as he struggled to stand up. Gu Xianyuan, who was about to attack, put down the immortal Slayer sword in her hand. Since someone was willing to help her, there was no need for her to waste her energy. At the same time, she could also witness the strength of the Strife sword spirit. At that moment, the shaking of the cruise ship became even more intense. It was in danger of capsizing at any time. The shaking deck made it a little difficult for the Strife sword spirit to take off. It took a lot of effort for the Strife sword spirit to take off from the white cruise ship. It stood in the sky and looked down at the entire sea. Then, the Strife sword spirit's pupils shrank instantly because he saw a blood-red snake-like body flashing across the sea. The Strife sword spirit was no stranger to such a body. It was not the first time he saw it. May I know which lord of the dragon race is here? Can we meet on the ship? The Strife sword spirit said loudly in the sky. He did not expect that the Yuan Ko who came to attack the cruise ship was actually the royal family of the sea race, the dragon race. Hiss! A shrill dragon's roar seemed to break the entire sky. Then, a blood-red dragon directly leaped out of the sea. After dancing in the air for a while, it occupied the air like a pyramid. Its dragon head stared at the white cruise ship and Gu Xianyuan, who was sitting on the white cruise ship. With the appearance of the dragon, the sea gradually calmed down. The white cruise ship that kept swaying from side to side also calmed down. However, the deck was now a mess. All kinds of things were broken into pieces. It's really a dragon race. The Strife sword spirit muttered to himself nervously when he saw the true form of the dragon. In this chaotic world, the Western dragon race and the Eastern dragon race shared the name of dragon, but in fact they were two completely different races. This situation made the Eastern dragon race and the Western dragon race very unhappy. They were extremely stubborn about the name of dragon, even more so than Yuan Ko's natural instinct to destroy the human race. In order to prove that they were the true dragons, the Eastern Dragon Clan and the Western Dragon Clan had fought many times in the 200 years after the Great Apocalypse. In the end, the Eastern Dragon Clan had the upper hand in all aspects, beating the Western Dragon Clan to the point where they could only hide in their own lairs. Later, the Western Dragon invited the mayor of the Freedom Metropolis to mediate the dispute. The mayor of the Freedom Metropolis was a very interesting person. He suggested that the Western Dragon be called Giant Dragon, and the Eastern Dragon be called True Dragon. This was very harmonious. Unexpectedly, both races were very satisfied with this result. The Western Dragon race had always been called Giant Dragons. This was a name that they had long since gotten used to. For the Western Dragon race, it didn't change much. To the Eastern Dragon race, the word True Dragon was undoubtedly a proof that they were the true dragons. Therefore, the two dragon races reconciled in this somewhat magical and dramatic way. The humans also followed the result of this reconciliation, and from then on, they called the Eastern Dragon race the True Dragon, and the Western Dragon race the Giant Dragon. Now that the Strife Sword Spirit mentioned the words True Dragon, it meant that the dragon in front of it was a proper Eastern Dragon race. It was a very normal situation. It was abnormal for a Western Dragon race to appear in the sea. No Western Dragon race would dare to come to the Eastern Dragon race's territory and court death. "My lord of the True Dragon race," the Strife Sword Spirit said with a solemn expression, "I'm not sure if there's a misunderstanding between us, or if my white cruise ship has deviated from its course. Please enlighten me, my lord." The Strife Sword Spirit was shocked to see that it was a true dragon race. In the past, Yuan Ko of the Seafolk would harass human ships that sailed in the sea. However, those Yuan bandits were basically sea-race Yuan bandits with low intelligence and were similar to wild beasts. Sea-race Yuan bandits with intelligence rarely disobeyed the agreement signed between the True Dragon clan and the human race. They would not appear on the agreed route to harass the human race. As the direct signatory of the contract, it was even more impossible for the True Dragon clan to appear in the waterway to harass humans. Ever since the establishment of London, the True Dragon clan had appeared in the waterway no more than 5 times. The last time was 200 years ago. This was the first time in 200 years that the True Dragon clan had harassed humans in the waterway. That was why the Strife Sword Spirit was particularly surprised and in disbelief. "I am Ao Guang, the 28th Prince of the Western Sea Dragon race. You have touched my dragon scales. That is a heinous crime. You shall pay for it with offerings." The voice boomed in everyone's ears like thunder. "It's the 28th Prince of the Western Sea." The Strife Sword Spirit's expression darkened when the True Dragon race revealed his identity. The East, West, South, and North Sea Dragon palaces were originally only in charge of the sea near Huaxia. However, when the entire world's sea was occupied by the True Dragon clan, the territories of the 4 seas were redistributed. Among them, the sea near England was placed under the management of the West Sea Dragon clan. The 28 dragon princes of the West Sea were naturally the local dragons in this area. The Yuan Ko of the True Dragon race was different from the other Yuan Ko. The other Yuan Ko would most likely lose their ability to reproduce after arriving in this world, making it difficult for them to give birth to their own offspring. On the other hand, it was more likely for a human and a Yuan Ko of mixed blood to give birth to offspring. However, the True Dragon clan was a complete exception. For the past 1,000 years, the True Dragon clan had prospered. After all, when the True Dragon clan first appeared in this world, the youngest dragon prince of the West Sea Dragon clan was only ranked 6. Now, the 28th prince of the Western Sea Dragon race had appeared. Among the dragon race of the 4 seas, only the children of the Dragon King could be called the Dragon Prince. The rest could only be called Dragon Sons. This meant that the Dragon King of the Western Sea had given birth to 22 dragon princes in this world. The other dragon races that were not the Dragon King had given birth to countless dragon sons. The True Dragon race's descendants were hiding under the sea. It was also the reason why the Giant Dragon race could not defeat the True Dragon race. It was all because of the True Dragon race's terrifying ability to reproduce. As for the 28th Prince of the Dragon Clan of the West Sea, he was also a famous bandit near London. This 28th Prince was the youngest son of the Dragon King of the West Sea. It was said that he was only 80 years old this year. Since he entered puberty at the age of 60, he began to cause trouble around London. Whether it was the dragon race or the human race, it was inevitable for them to be restless during puberty. They liked to do ridiculous things that they thought were cool and awesome. The first to suffer was the nearby Yuan Ko. Whether it was the Yuan Ko of the True Dragon race or the Yuan Ko of the non-True Dragon race, they were all tormented by the 28th Prince. Many Yuan Ko even chose to move away from the Western Sea, which saved London some trouble. However, the 28th Prince brought more trouble to London. Many sword-bearers had unpleasant stories with the 28th prince of the dragon race. Some unlucky sword-bearers even died in the hands of the 28th prince. However, due to the position of the dragon race in the sea, London did not dare to do anything to the 28th prince of the dragon race. They could only suffer in silence. The 28th prince's favorite thing to do was to blackmail people. When he wanted to do something against the rules, he would use blackmail, a great thing invented by humans. The most common excuse for blackmail was that one had hurt his scales. Even if one did not kill an ant while walking on the road, the 28th prince of the dragon race would suddenly jump out and say that one had touched his scales and ask for compensation. Dragon scales were the most important thing to the true dragon race and the giant dragon race. It was like a person's face. To the dragon race, it was absolutely not allowed to be touched or offended. If one really did hurt the true dragon race's dragon scales, then the true dragon race would have every reason to seek revenge on one. When the Strife Sword Spirit heard that the 28th prince of the dragon race said that his scales were damaged, he was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The prince of the dragon race had begun to use his old tricks again. What was even more infuriating was that his cruise ship was sailing in the sea. There were surveillance cameras around the cruise ship that could prove his innocence, but there were no surveillance cameras below the sea. Even if the dragon prince said that the bottom of the ship had damaged 100 of his dragon scales, the Strife Sword had no evidence to prove his innocence. "Your Royal Highness, what kind of compensation do you want?" The dragon crown prince that it could neither scold nor beat, Strife was left with no choice but to grit its teeth and swallow its anger, hoping that the crown prince dragon would leave as soon as possible by spending some money to avert the disaster. "Your grandpa dragon is in a good mood today. I don't want any money from you. Just give that woman to me and let her warm my bed." The 28th prince, Ao Guang, said casually as he looked at Gu Xianyuan, who was sitting calmly on the deck. "Sister Shirhan." At this time, Lu Shihua, who was in a panic, ran out of the cabin. The poor little girl's forehead was swollen in 2 or 3 places, and her whole body was bruised. Obviously, the child had hit herself hard during the swing just now. Poor child. Gu Xianyuan pulled Lu Shihua into her embrace, as she gently caressed the small bump on Lu Shihua's forehead. Regardless of her tone or expression, she was incomparably gentle, causing Lu Shihua's entire person to be somewhat intoxicated. It also made Ao Guang, who was on the side, also intoxicated. The thick fire of desire in his heart burned even hotter. Dragons were lascivious. This was a truth that had never changed since ancient times. Chapter 1172. This stupid dragon has his eyes on Miss Gu Shirhan. Hearing Ao Guang's request, the Strife Sword Spirit frowned. This was something that he absolutely could not agree to. Not to mention that Gu Shirhan was the twin sister of his goddess, Gu Xianyuan. Even if Gu Shirhan had nothing to do with him, as a spirit sword-level sword wielder, he did not have the face to give a human woman to a true dragon to warm his bed. According to the previous information, any human who was captured by the Dragon Clan would probably not live for more than a month. "I'm sorry, Your Highness. I can't agree to your request. How about I give you 100 caddies of gold?" Strife Sword Spirit said with a pained expression. "Your grandpa dragon has a mountain of gold. Who would want 100 caddies of gold?" Ao Guang's body that was as thin as a snake began to writhe again. "If you know what's good for you, hand this woman over. Otherwise, your grandpa dragon will kill everyone on this ship. There's no other way. Looks like I have to fight." The Strife Blade Spirit sighed and signaled to the Red Knight Sword Mistress beside him. The Red Knight Sword Mistress nodded and charged at the dragon in an instant. "This is the Regicide Sword Lady." Gu Xianyuan squinted her eyes at the Sword Spirit of Strife's Spirit Grade Sword Mistress. Although the Sword Mistress looked like a knight, it did not have a good name. It was said that this lady sword mistress had killed an emperor named Caesar before the Great Apocalypse, hence the ominous name of the regicide sword. "How dare you attack me?" Ao Guang let out a furious roar. The lightning flashing all over his body became even more intense. His aura seemed to be even more powerful than the thunder dragon Kong Na in Yuzhong City 10 days ago. Seeing that the regicide sword was getting closer and closer to him, Ao Guang let out a dragon roar, and all the lightning bolts struck at the regicide sword. Such power caused the entire world to change color in an instant. The originally pitch-black night became as bright as day in the flash of lightning. Ding ding ding. The Zhu Xian sword in Gu Xuanyuan's hands let out a clear sword cry. Seeing that the Dragon Crown Prince's attack was so powerful, Gu Xianyuan was already prepared. If the Sword Lady of the Sword Strife showed any signs of losing, she would not hesitate to make a move and capture the Dragon Crown Prince. But when the sky full of thunder and lightning collided with the Lord-slaying sword, Gu Xuanyuan's face revealed a disdainful smile. The exterminating immortal sword that was constantly emitting sword cries also calmed down. Clearly, Gu Xianyuan did not intend to make a move. This useless dragon is strong on the outside but weak on the inside. Gu Xianyuan sneered. And the truth was just as Gu Xianyuan said, these lightning bolts were just something that looked scary. When the lightning bolts struck the Kingslayer sword, even the 2% energy of the Kingslayer sword's shield couldn't shake it. The Kingslayer sword easily broke through the lightning and appeared in front of Ao Guang in the blink of an eye. Wah wah! Ao Guang was so angry that he couldn't even let out his majestic dragon roar. He opened his mouth and bit towards the regicide sword. Ridiculous! Seeing Ao Guang's action, Gu Xianyuan was even more disdainful. According to the information that Gu Xianyuan had on the True Dragon Clan, the True Dragon Clan would never attack with their mouth. To the True Dragon Clan, using a dragon's mouth to attack was like a human using his mouth to bite a dog. It was the most humiliating behavior. Unless the true dragon had no other choice, it would not use such a humiliating method to attack with its mouth. But now, Ao Guang just attacked with his mouth after the lightning bolts lost their effect. This was simply a disgrace to the True Dragon Clan. But there was one thing that had to be admitted. The True Dragon Clan's dragon's mouth was indeed one of their strongest killing moves. Many true dragons would bite back at the last moment and successfully reverse the entire situation. Unfortunately, Ao Guang's mouth was really ugly. It was like a rabid dog on the street. There was no order to it. It was just instinctively biting people. The Kingslayer sword easily avoided Ao Guang's mouth. Then, it lightly tapped a certain spot on Ao Guang's neck. Ao Guang, who had been so mighty just a moment ago, instantly went limp. He looked at the Kingslayer sword with fear in his eyes. What AF** king piece of trash. With regards to this battle, Gu Xianyuan was almost speechless. This 20th prince of the Dragon Clan was truly a piece of trash. He actually didn't even hide his reverse scale, and began to cause trouble everywhere, plunder, scam, and attract hatred. This was simply a typical case of courting death. Whether it was a true dragon or a true dragon, the reverse scale was their greatest weakness. Even if it was an ancient sword-rank swordmistress, as long as her sword was pressed against the reverse scale, she could kill the giant dragon or true dragon at any time and place. Countless battles proved that as long as one could find the location of the Dragon Clan's reverse scale, the chances of winning the battle would increase by more than a few times. Humans had developed countless dragon-slaying tactics to target the Dragon Clan's reverse scale. As long as one could attack the Dragon Clan's reverse scale, it was not impossible for a small soldier to save the world. Therefore, if any true dragon wanted to leave the Dragon Palace to explore the world, the first thing they had to do was to learn the skill to hide and transfer their reverse scale. This skill could transfer their reverse scale to any part of the body. When practiced to a high level, one could even change the color of the reverse scale to be exactly the same as the other scales. This way, unless the opponent attacked the reverse scale piece by piece, it was impossible to find the Dragon Clan's reverse scale. This was also the Dragon Clan's most important way of protecting themselves. But this Prince Ao Guang had come out to stir up trouble before he had even learned such an important skill. It was a very rare thing that he had not died in the hands of an opponent in the past few decades. Sir Knight, let the prince transform into his human form. It's not a good idea to keep coiling in the sky, Gu Xianyuan said loudly to the sword spirit of strife. The sword spirit of strife nodded helplessly and gave an order to his sword lady. The King Slayer sword said a few words to Ao Guang, who was under its control. Ao Guang obediently transformed into his human form and stood on the deck under the control of the King Slayer sword. He looks quite fresh. After Prince Ao Guang transformed into his human form, he looked unexpectedly cute. He looked to be about 12 or 13 years old. His face was extremely handsome, and he had the aura of a young man. His skin was like a baby's skin, so fresh and tender that water could be squeezed out of it. In terms of appearance, he looked quite similar to the forever 17-year-old celebrity before the Great Apocalypse, but Ao Guang was a real Shota. It was hard to imagine that such a cute little boy was actually the Dragon Crown Prince who was boasting shamelessly in the sky, was full of evil deeds, and even wanted to kidnap Gu Xianyuan to be a bed warmer. "Will you kill me?" Ao Guang said with a sad face. "You can't kill me. I'm still a kid." "You're a kid?" Gu Xianyuan sneered and questioned him fiercely. "A kid would go and blackmail someone? Why would you casually kidnap someone to warm your bed?" "Wah. I'm really just a kid." Maybe because Gu Xuanyuan's expression was too scary, Ao Guang was scared to tears. He wailed, "I'm just a kid. I just think you're pretty. I just think you're pretty and want to bring you back to the Dragon Palace to play with. I can't control my little dragon vein. There's a serious problem with this kid's worldview." Gu Xianyuan pinched her forehead in distress. If it was a normal Yuan Ko, Gu Xianyuan would have already killed him without any nonsense. But the problem was that this Ao Guang was the West Sea Dragon King's most beloved son. The Sea Clan, especially the Dragon Clan, had a similar attitude towards humans as the Freedom Cities. As long as you didn't provoke them, they wouldn't provoke you. Or rather, they wouldn't provoke you on a large scale. At most, there would be some small skirmishes and battles, and it wouldn't escalate to a large-scale war between the entire race. Similarly, humans did not dare to provoke the powerful sea race, and they often took the attitude of keeping the peace to deal with matters. If Gu Xianyuan killed this Crown Prince Ao Guang now, who knew what the furious West Sea Dragon King would do? Although Gu Xianyuan didn't like London and was very disgusted with Long Shijiendi, the citizens of London and the sword-bearer were innocent. At that time, Gu Xianyuan could just go back to Yuzhong City, but London, a city close to the sea, would really be finished. Although Long Shijiendi was in charge and London's city defense wouldn't be so easily broken, the various arrangements around London that had been painstakingly made for hundreds of years would definitely be finished. Moreover, as long as the people of London left London, they would definitely die. All the people of London might be trapped and die in London. But thinking of Ao Guang's evil deeds, Gu Xianyuan really didn't want to let him go like this. This didn't conform to Gu Xuanyuan's outlook on life and values. "Lord Knight Captain, how many lives has this Crown Prince killed?" Gu Xianyuan asked after thinking for a while. If Ao Guang's head was stained with too much human blood, then Gu Xianyuan would not hesitate to kill this Crown Prince. At most, it would be a little troublesome to deal with it, and she would need to use some tricks to frame him. "There are at least 100 of them," Strife answered subconsciously. If he knew that his answer would determine Ao Guang's life and death, he would definitely not say the real number even if he was beaten to death. As a London citizen, He could not really kill this Dragon Crown Prince no matter what. But then again, this Dragon Crown Prince was really a useless piece of trash. Not only was his ability bad, but his mind was also very bad. Anyone with a normal IQ could see through the scruples of London and know that humans would not really kill the Dragon Crown Prince. If Gu Xianyuan caught him, not only would he not be afraid, but he would also laugh at Gu Xianyuan because of his background. He would not be like Ao Guang, who was really scared and thought that the London citizen had the guts to kill him. However, this was also Ao Guang's good fortune. If he really dared to provoke Gu Huayuan even after being captured, Gu Huayuan would definitely slaughter this stupid dragon without any hesitation. Chapter 1173. This guy's hands are stained with hundreds of human lives. Gu Xuanyuan's celestial bane was ready to strike. For the sake of the hundreds of sword-bearers' lives, this stupid dragon must die here. You're talking nonsense. When did Grandpa Xiaolong kill more than 100 people? Grandpa Xiaolong was just joking with them. Grandpa Xiaolong has never really killed anyone. Perhaps Ao Guang had sensed Gu Xuanyuan's murderous intent, but he quickly tried to defend himself. You've been stirring up trouble at the seaside for the past 10 years. You've even stirred up huge waves. More than 80 of our fishermen who work by the shore have drowned. What else do you have to defend yourself? Also, you've robbed more than 10 women from our human farms. You've also destroyed a lot of our equipment in London. You even like to release your lightning bolts everywhere. More than 20 people have been killed by your lightning bolt. Strife's sword spirit reprimanded Ao Guang for his crimes. Ao Guang wanted to defend himself, but he could not say a word because he knew that Strife was telling the truth. He was the one who did all those horrible things. However, what Ao Guang did not know was that while he was defending himself, Gu Xianyuan, who was filled with murderous intent, suddenly gave up on killing Ao Guang. She pressed down the celestial bane in her hand again. Being a fisherman was a profession that only normal humans would do. Sword-bearers would not be bothered to be fishermen. The women who were robbed were also normal humans. As for those who were electrocuted, they should be normal humans as well. As long as a sword-bearer had a shield around them, it would be impossible for them to be electrocuted by Ao Guang's inferior lightning bolt. In other words, everyone who died in Ao Guang's hands were normal humans. At most, there were only 1 or 2 sword-bearers. That made Gu Xianyuan let go of her murderous intent. Although all the Bay cities apart from Jerusalem Bay City were promoting the concept of equality for everyone, it was obvious whether there was equality between normal humans and sword-bearers. Even Gohan could not avoid this. It was only the lives of 100 normal humans. It was not worth it for Gohan to take the risk to kill this stupid young dragon. As a result, the stupid dragon inadvertently saved its life. Let me ask you, why aren't you sleeping in the middle of the night? Why are you here to catch me? I just checked the information. Even a stupid dragon like you has never come to the sea route to behave atrociously. Gu Xianyuan, who had let go of his killing intent, asked Ao Guang. Dragons were indeed animals whose brains were determined by their stick. They would want to have sex whenever they saw something beautiful. Otherwise, there wouldn't be 9 strange species like dragons giving birth to 9 sons. However, the true dragon tribe rarely had the habit of being active at night. More importantly, how did this stupid dragon see his face clearly in this pitch-black night? Everything was a little too strange. Today, one of my buddies invited me to play on the shore, and I happened to see you, sister. Xiaolong really admires elder sister very much. You're simply a celestial being. Therefore, I hope to invite elder sister to visit the Dragon Palace. However, the method is a little rough. Elder sister, please spare Xiaolong. Actually, Xiaolong didn't want to make a move at night, so I purposely damaged the 3 fairies. I didn't expect elder sister to take that white fairy out to sea. I thought that elder sister would arrive in London at night. If I don't make a move now, I won't have the chance to invite you anymore. That's why Xiaolong made a move at night," Ao Guang said pitifully. Gu Xianyuan was a little surprised. She did not expect that she had miscalculated. She had always thought that the 3 fairies were damaged by the strife sword spirit. She did not expect that it was this stupid dragon who did it. Only this stupid dragon could damage 3 fairies in the water without making a sound. "You said that you came with your buddies. Where is your buddies? Is he hiding in the dark to save you?" Gu Xianyuan asked again. "No," Ao Guang pouted. "He's usually not interested in women. His mother happened to call him home for dinner, so he went back early and left Xiaolong here alone." "Are you two from the true dragon tribe?" Gu Xianyuan asked with squinted eyes. "Yes. However, he's not from the main bloodline. I heard that he's the son of my 3rd elder brother and a turtle. I'm actually his grandfather," Ao Guang said proudly. Ao Guang's 3rd elder brother was the 3rd prince of the West Sea Dragon Palace. However, it was worth mentioning that the 3rd prince of the West Sea Dragon King was the white dragon horse in the journey to the west, which later became the 8 heavenly dragons in Buddhism. Of course, in the post-Great Calamity era, no one knew about this story. Gu Xianyuan asked the useless little dragon about the general situation in the West Sea Dragon Palace. She then smiled at the strife sword spirit and said, "Lord Knight Captain, how do you think we should deal with the 28th Dragon Prince? Do you want to burn him, stew him, or boil him?" "What? Don't eat me. I don't taste good." When the useless dragon heard that Gu Xianyuan had 3 ways to kill it, it screamed in fear. At the same time, the strife sword spirit was sweating profusely in fright. What a joke! London did not want to offend the West Sea Dragon clan. "In my opinion, why don't we send the prince back to London and let the Sword Council negotiate with the West Sea Dragon clan? The West Sea Dragon clan was the first to invade us, so we are in the right. Therefore, in order for the West Sea Dragon King to redeem the Dragon Crown Prince, we have to take back a lot of things from the West Sea Dragon clan." "That's right. You're right," Gu Xianyuan nodded. Before Ao Guang could react, Gu Xianyuan threw him off the cruise ship and back into the sea. "Miss Shirhan, what are you doing?" The strife sword spirit was stunned for a while before he finally reacted and asked Gu Xianyuan loudly. "He was caught because of me. Of course, he's mine. I can do whatever I want with him. It has nothing to do with the strife sword spirit," Gu Xianyuan said casually. But didn't I catch him?" The strife sword spirit was so angry that its nose became crooked. "I didn't ask you to do it. I can easily catch such a useless little dragon," Gu Xianyuan said in a very annoying manner. However, the strife blade spirit could not refute that. That useless dragon was truly too weak. A saber-tier sword wielder would probably be able to catch him. He had truly embarrassed the draconic race. Sigh. The benefits are gone. The strife sword spirit sighed and was ready to control the cruise ship to continue sailing towards London. "What happened? That scary woman just let Grandpa Dragon go just like that?" Ao Guang said in disbelief as he returned to the familiar sea. He was stunned for a while before he finally realized what had happened. He really thought that Gu Xianyuan would cook him and eat him. After all, the true dragon clan was very nutritious. Grandpa Dragon understands now. That woman must have been attracted by Grandpa Dragon's handsome appearance and didn't want to eat Grandpa Dragon. That's why she let Grandpa Dragon go. This good-for-nothing dragon had fully grasped the essence of Ah Q's spirit. In just a few moments, he had successfully brainwashed himself. He happily thought that his handsomeness had really charmed Gu Xianyuan. La la la. But I'm not a gentleman if I don't get my revenge. When Grandpa Dragon goes back, I'll ask a few brothers to help me catch this beautiful woman. Grandpa Dragon's dragon vein is thirsting for her. Ao Guang was fantasizing as he returned to the West Ocean Dragon Palace. Grandpa Crown Prince. Grandpa Crown Prince. Ao Guang, who was daydreaming, suddenly heard a familiar voice calling out to him. He turned his head and saw a tortoise-like creature with a dragon's head and a long neck. The creature had a half-dragon's body. It had a large shell on its back and a dragon's head on its back. "Damn it! Why is it you?" Ao Guang was infuriated by the appearance of this monster, and he said in an annoyed tone, "What's wrong? Did Grandpa Crown Prince's plan fail?" The tortoise-bodied dragon monster asked in fear. "It's more than that. Your Grandpa Dragon was steamed by that woman. Grandpa Dragon was scared to death." Ao Guang swam to the side of that monster and used his dragon claws to hit the monster's head. The monster didn't dare to resist. It could only laugh at Ao Guang. "Is that woman that powerful?" the monster said in disbelief. "That's not it. That woman isn't that powerful, but I didn't expect that knight captain to be on the ship as well. He's a spiritual sword-tier sword wielder. I fought with him for 900 rounds before he caught me. Otherwise I would have succeeded." Ao Guang boasted shamelessly. "Grandpa Dragon is so powerful," the monster praised exaggeratedly. "Humph! It's all your fault, grandson. If you didn't go home to eat and fought with Grandpa Dragon wouldn't have ended up in the hands of a human. Grandpa Dragon would have gotten that woman." Ao Guang rolled his eyes and threw the blame onto the monster. However, from this sentence it could be seen that this monster should be the brother Ao Guang was talking about. It was the son of his third brother and the tortoise's daughter. No wonder this monster looked half tortoise and half dragon. In reality, they were a pair of grandfather and grandson. So that's how it is. Before he knew it, the monster was already very close to Ao Guang. Its shell was already stuck to Ao Guang's body, but Ao Guang didn't notice it at all. "Grandpa Crown Prince," the monster suddenly said. "What is it?" Ao Guang asked subconsciously. "Tyranny, I want to try steamed dragon meat." As soon as the monster finished speaking, the tortoise shell on its body instantly left its body and expanded, sucking in Ao Guang who was beside it. Chapter 1174. Tyranny, let go of me. I'm not in the mood to play games with you. Ao Guang wasn't very afraid when he saw himself being sucked into the turtle shell. In fact, he looked a little impatient. This naive dragon hadn't realized what was happening. He thought that this monster called Tyranny was just joking with him. Ao Guang, no wonder you're our West Sea's #1 stupid dragon. You still don't understand even at this point? Tyranny said viciously. I said, today I want to taste what steamed dragon meat tastes like. You're going to eat me too. Ao Guang finally realized what was going on. His expression instantly became incomparably terrified. He felt like he had seen a ghost today. In just a short hour there were 2 people planning on eating him, and one of them was a close friend of his. That's right, I'm going to eat you, Tyranny said, licking his dragon whiskers. Are you crazy? We're good friends. Ao Guang shouted. Your grandfather is my older brother. I'm your great-uncle. How could you do this to me? Don't mention that damned grandfather to me. When Tyranny heard Ao Guang mention the third prince, his expression instantly became incomparably sinister. Don't mention that bastard Ao to me. When did Ao ever admit that I'm his grandson? He won't even look me in the eye. He never put me in his eyes. I'm not his grandson, never. Ao Guang didn't think that the normally submissive, always smiling Tyranny would have such a terrifying moment. The current Tyranny was like a ball of fire. His entire body was covered in flames. The people around him couldn't bear the heat, and he himself was in extreme pain. How could you call your grandfather a bastard? Weren't you born from a bastard yourself? Ao Guang said dumbly. Logically speaking, Ao Guang wasn't wrong. Wasn't this Tyranny a monster born from a bastard? From a certain perspective, Tyranny was a true bastard. A bastard scolding another person as a bastard. No matter how one listened to it, it sounded very ridiculous. Shut up. Tyranny didn't think that trash Ao Guang would still have the time to mock them after being captured. Tyranny became even angrier. Their eyes flashed and dozens of rapidly spinning water wheel blades flew out from the turtle shell that trapped Ao Guang. These water wheel blades were only a few tenths of a meter thick and had extremely sharp points. It seemed like they could easily cut through anything. What is this? Hurry up and take these things away. Ao Guang screamed when he saw the water wheel blades spinning around him. My dear Grandpa Long, you don't even recognize this? Tyranny suddenly began to laugh sinisterly. This is our Baxia clan's treasure, Netherworld water wheel. When this water wheel comes into contact with your body, the Netherworld energy on it will easily corrode your body into a puddle of black liquid, but don't worry, the true dragon blood in your body won't be harmed. I can't bear to harm it. What? Netherworld water wheel. Take it away. Take it away. Ao Guang began to cry again. Even if Tyranny didn't explain the Netherworld water wheel, Ao Guang had heard of its name. Countless dragons had died to the Netherworld water wheel in the past. My Grandpa Long, don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being too stupid and too useless. It's really a waste for such a pure and top-notch true dragon's essence blood to flow in your body. Why don't you give your true dragon's essence blood to me? Let me take off this damned turtle shell and become a real true dragon. This way you can die a worthy death. Tyranny said arrogantly. At the same time, they revealed the true reason why they wanted to harm Ao Guang. They wanted Ao Guang's true dragon blood. Even though Ao Guang was trash, his bloodline was extremely pure. He was the direct descendant of the West Sea Dragon King and his queen. The true dragon blood in his body wasn't much weaker than the West Sea Dragon King's. As long as Tyranny absorbed Ao Guang's true dragon blood and used it to cultivate, then Tyranny would be able to shed this tortoise shell that caused them so much pain and become a true dragon. Let me go, aren't you afraid that my father and brothers will kill you? Ao Guang looked at the Netherworld water wheel in despair. At the same time, he made his final threat. Let me go, if my father and brothers find out, they'll definitely kill you for revenge. Why do you have to make life difficult for me? I've never offended you, just let me go, ha ha. Don't worry, I've already planned it out. Right now, a lot of people in the West Sea know that you went to the humans' shipping route to rob them. When the time comes, I'll throw your dragon bones and dragon tendons into the shipping route. That way, our West Sea Dragon King and my stupid grandfather will naturally think that it was the humans who did it. It has nothing to do with tyranny, ha 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 ha. Tyranny laughed maniacally. It seemed like this guy was planning on framing Gu Xianyuan, who told humans to be the best framing targets. After all, humans and dragons were enemies. Plus, Ao Guang had done so many bad things in human territory. It was normal for humans to kill him out of anger. As for whether or not this would lead to a war between the West Sea Dragon race and London, that was out of Tyranny's control, or rather, Tyranny wanted this war to happen. The more true dragons that died, the happier Tyranny would be. If that happened, Tyranny would be happy, but the humans in London would be in great danger. The West Sea Dragon King, who had lost his son, would definitely take revenge on the humans. At that time, London would definitely face the greatest danger since its founding. This wasn't an exaggeration. The Dragon Kings of the Four Seas had always been of the same branch. If the West Sea Dragon King made his move, then the other four Dragon Kings would most likely take revenge on the humans. If that happened, even if London had Dragon Shurjiendi, it would still be in danger of being destroyed. If that happened, Gu Xianyuan would definitely become the biggest scapegoat in the world. She would become the target of hatred for every single person in London. At that time, Gu Xianyuan wouldn't even have the right to live in the human world. At that time, Gu Xianyuan would be like the Serbian gunman who started the First World War. Countless lives would end. Countless bloody crimes would all fall on this gunman's head. This would undoubtedly be a great tragedy for Gu Xianyuan. Gu Xianyuan would definitely be ostracized by everyone if this black pot really fell on Gu Xuanyuan's head. And looking at the current situation, Gu Xianyuan, who was dozens of kilometers away, wouldn't be able to realize this. At the same time, there was no one nearby who could save Ao Guang. This black pot would definitely fall on Gu Xuanyuan's head, unless Gu Xianyuan could immediately appear and save Ao Guang. TSK. It's a good plan, but there's a huge flaw in it. The proud tyranny suddenly heard a woman's mocking voice. It was Gu Xianyuan. Gu Xianyuan actually appeared here at this moment, when the biggest black pot in history was about to fall on her head. She actually appeared. Who is it? Tyranny looked around in panic, but didn't see any other animals in the water. The voice seemed to have come from the water. On the surface of the water, there's a human. Tyranny immediately made the correct guess. No matter if it was the sword wielder or the sword lady, they weren't good at fighting in the water. As a result, when humans fought against the sea folk, it was usually the humans who stayed on the water. They wouldn't take the initiative to fight with Yuan Ko in the water. Understanding this point, Tyranny relaxed. Since the other side didn't dare to go into the water, then they still had an advantage. Tell me, what's the flaw in my plan? Tyranny thought of the human's words and asked curiously. Think about it, if your Yuan Ko dies in this world, he has to go back to that world through the dimensional vortex. If you kill this stupid dragon, whether it's his dragon blood essence, dragon bones, or dragon tendons, they'll all be sucked away by the dimensional vortex. Where are you going to find these dragon bones and tendons to frame me? Gu Xianyuan said calmly. Hearing Gu Xuanyuan's words, Tyranny was stunned. Their bodies became extremely stiff. It was just as Gu Xianyuan had said. If he killed Ao Guang, then not only would the true dragon blood essence disappear, the corpse he had planned on using to frame him would also disappear. Tyranny would have taken a huge risk for nothing and gained nothing in return. That's right. You can't kill me. That's right. Ao Guang heard Gu Xuanyuan's words and immediately said excitedly. The netherworld water wheels seemed to understand Tyranny's intentions and stopped moving, no longer approaching Ao Guang. Then what should I do? Tyranny said helplessly. It's simple. Gu Xianyuan laughed. Don't kill this stupid dragon. Just take a portion of his blood essence every day, no? That's right. That's right. How come I didn't think of that? Tyranny jumped up and down in the water, celebrating that they had solved this problem. Big sis, don't screw me over. Big sis, save me. Ao Guang was given a big fright by Gu Xuanyuan's words. The little bit of hope he had just gotten was instantly smashed to the bottom. I thought that only this stupid dragon was stupid, but it looks like this turtle is also stupid. Gu Xianyuan squinted her eyes as she floated on the surface of the water. Since this tortoise is also an idiot, then there must be a smart person behind this tortoise. Chapter 1175. Miss Shirhan, it doesn't matter if there's a smart person behind this. If you don't save Prince Ao Guang, he might really be cooked by this turtle, Strife said with a bitter smile. The Strife sword spirit smiled bitterly. He was probably the one who was most concerned about Ao Guang's safety. Sure. Then I'll have to trouble Knight Commander to save Prince Ao Guang. Gu Xianyuan gestured to Strife. King Slayer Goddess, I'll have to trouble you. Strife said to the King Slayer Sword Goddess. The King Slayer Sword Goddess leaped into his hands like a big fish and started fighting with the monster called Tyranny. Who are you? Tyranny was on high alert when they heard the noise coming from the sea. They were prepared for the King Slayer Sword Goddess's attack. The King Slayer Sword Goddess's attack did not have much of an effect. Humans! It really is you! Tyranny said through gritted teeth after seeing their opponent. Humans, why are you stopping me? The King Slayer Sword Goddess did not say anything. She only looked at Tyranny quietly. Master was right. You humans are all a bunch of heartless trash. This stupid dragon bullied you humans like this, killed so many of you humans, and even wanted to take your master back to rape and mate with him. You actually don't have the slightest bit of courage. Not only did you let this stupid dragon come back, you even stopped me from killing him to avenge you. No wonder you humans lost this world." Tyranny's words were filled with sarcasm, causing Strife's expression to turn ugly. "Who told him to speak the truth? Don't dwell on these meaningless things. It's enough as long as you know that it's beneficial to mankind." Gu Xianyuan whispered into the Strife Sword Spirit's ear. The Strife Sword Spirit's expression immediately became a lot better. "Kill him and save Prince Ao Guang." Strife gave the order to the King Slayer Sword Goddess. The battle between the two sides began under the sea. If the King Slayer Sword Goddess could easily defeat Ao Guang, then she should be able to easily defeat Tyranny as well. In reality, the King Slayer Sword Goddess was stuck in a bitter battle with Tyranny. One reason was because Tyranny was filled with hatred and resentment. They wouldn't give up on improving themselves. As a result, even though Tyranny was the same age as Ao Guang, they were more than 10 times stronger than Ao Guang. In particular, he had some magical treasures with him, and his strength was roughly at the level of a famed sword wielder. Correspondingly, even though the king-slaying sword queen was a spirit sword wielder, an entire realm higher than Tyranny, the problem was that the battlefield was in the middle of the ocean. The sea had always been one of the most unfriendly environments for sword maidens. Apart from sword maidens who possessed the water attribute, even the most powerful sword maidens would be suppressed by the seawater. There was a saying among the sword maidens, "I would rather kill Mingyun on the land than face a flood dragon in the sea." This was the principle behind it. The reason why the sword maiden's fighting strength was reduced in the water wasn't because of her breathing. Although the sword maiden had the ability to breathe, and her chest would rise and fall to indicate that she was breathing, it was only a decorative function. Whether there was air or not made no difference to the sword maiden. Otherwise, the sword maiden wouldn't be able to live freely in a dimensional space that was isolated from air. As a result, the reason why the sword maidens couldn't fight in the water wasn't because of their breathing, but because of the seawater's resistance. No matter if it was a close-range attack or long-range skill, the seawater could greatly reduce the sword maiden's attack power. It was as if the sword maiden's opponent had a 70% damage reduction buff. Any sword maiden that fought with Yuan Ko in the water, unless they were at least Emperor Sword level, would naturally be weakened by half. This was why the King Slayer Sword and Tyranny were evenly matched in the water. Even though the battle in the water was at a stalemate, the King Slayer Sword Queen was still a level higher than Tyranny. Her endurance was much higher, so as time went on, the scales of victory slowly tipped towards the King Slayer Sword Queen. In another 10 or 20 minutes or so, Tyranny would lose. "I can't continue like this." Tyranny realized their disadvantage. Unless Tyranny practiced for another few hundred years, they wouldn't be able to overcome this disadvantage. In other words, Tyranny knew that they would lose without a doubt. However, Tyranny didn't panic. Even though he couldn't beat the Strife Sword Spirit in the water with his true dragon bloodline, escaping was a piece of cake. If he ran with all his might, even an immortal sword maiden wouldn't be able to catch up to him in the water. *CK. Even if I run, I won't let you humans have it easy. Tyranny made up his mind. As he struggled to fend off the Kingslayer Sword Maiden's attacks, he controlled the Netherworld Water Wheel in his turtle shell to attack Ao Guang again. Tyranny clearly planned on killing Ao Guang before running away, making the humans the scapegoat. "Save me! Save me!" The Netherworld Water Wheel moved again. "I'm going to die." Ao Guang began to yell from within the turtle shell. The Strife Sword Spirit immediately ordered the Kingslayer Sword to temporarily stop attacking Tyranny and focus on destroying the turtle shell that was holding Ao Guang. Kingslayer // The Kingslayer Sword listened to the Strife Sword Spirit's order and immediately used a Kingslayer // on the turtle shell. Kingslayer Cross/ was the Kingslayer sword's advanced skill. At the same time, it was only second to the ultimate skill. One attack could deal 1,500% of the original attack power. It was a very powerful killing skill. The King-slaying sword knew that even if it was a flood dragon or dragon-level Yuenko, after taking one of her King-slaying cross-killing, he would at least lose half his life. It should not be a problem for him to break a tortoise shell. However, the King-slayer sword felt awkward. When her King-slayer cross/ hit Tyranny's turtle shell, it caused a ripple. After the ripple, Tyranny's turtle shell didn't receive any damage. It was still there, holding Ao Guang in place. Ha ha ha! Seeing this scene, Tyranny began to laugh wildly. I've been a tortoise my whole life. The only good thing about being a tortoise is this damn tortoise shell. My tortoise shell has nether-level defense. Even if you hit me 10 more times, you won't be able to break my tortoise shell. In reality, Tyranny's words had another meaning. If the Kingslayer sword used Kingslayer cross/ a dozen times, it would be able to break his turtle shell. Unfortunately, as a skill, King Murdering Cruciform / definitely had a cooldown. If I wanted to hit him more than 10 times, I would need a cooldown of 5 to 6 minutes. After 5 to 6 minutes, our Prince Ao Guang would probably have turned into a puddle of black water. Odd, it hurts. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Suddenly, Ao Guang let out a cry of pain from within the turtle shell. Through the transparent turtle shell, you could see that the netherworld water wheel had already cut into Ao Guang's dragon body, the Crimson Dragon body. The first to face the netherworld water wheel was naturally Ao Guang's scales. These tough scales were struggling to resist the netherworld energy contained within the netherworld wheel. However, from the speed at which the scales were turning into black water, it wouldn't take more than 10 seconds for the scales to completely turn into a puddle of black water. Without the protection of the scales, Ao Guang's body would instantly collapse. Damn, even if I use a high-level skill, I probably won't be able to break this turtle shell. On the surface of the sea, Sword Spirit Strife was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. Even though the Kingslayer sword's ultimate skill was several times stronger than Kingslayer Cross/, it was only several times stronger. To break this turtle shell, it would take more than 10 times the attack. Let's at least give it a try. It's better than not trying at all, Gu Xianyuan said calmly. I understand. Sword Spirit Strife had no choice but to make one last attempt. Under Sword Spirit Strife's command, the Kingslayer sword that was originally more than a meter long suddenly shrunk and turned into a dagger less than 20 centimeters long. The Kingslayer sword lady's body also merged with the Kingslayer sword's body. The entire sword was emitting a strange blood-red glow. After the Kingslayer sword finished its transformation, it spun a few rounds in the sea like a flying sword. During the process, the Kingslayer sword kept accelerating until it was as fast as lightning. Caesar collapse. After the blood-red lightning reached its limit, it directly hit the tortoise shell. The moment the two forces collided, a huge explosion occurred with the tortoise shell as the core. Monstrous waves rose from the calm sea like a magnitude 12 tsunami. The seawater struck Gu Xianyuan and Sword Spirit Strife, but they did not dodge. They were focused on the core of the battle, the turtle shell. Please. I must break through. Sword Spirit Strife prayed again and again in his heart. However, things did not go as he wished. Caesar collapse had indeed caused the turtle shell to enter a state of collapse. However, the turtle shell slowly stabilized in the end, and the power of the Kingslayer sword began to fade away rapidly. Go! As the Strife Sword Spirit's attention was focused on the tortoise shell, Gu Xuanyuan's Immortal Slayer sword instantly unleashed a tiny sword aura that was hard to detect. Its target was the tortoise shell that was floating in the sea. It's over. At the same time, Sword Spirit Strife cried out in sorrow when he saw his sword lady's ultimate skill fading away. Just as he was about to accept the fact that he had failed and think of a way to deal with the threat of Ao Guang's death, the turtle shell that was gradually stabilizing suddenly shook violently. Countless cracks appeared on the entire turtle shell, and it shattered into hundreds of pieces of debris in an instant. This sword spirit Strife was a little dumbfounded. He did not expect such a surprising turn of event. As for Ao Guang, he was smart enough at the last moment. At the moment when the tortoise shell cracked, he mustered all the strength in his body and rushed upward. He leaped out of the sea and directly transformed into Zheng Tai's human form in the sky. Then, he shrunk behind Gu Xianyuan and hid while shivering. Damn it! The tortoise shell could be said to be Tyranny's life-bound magic treasure. The moment this life-bound magic treasure shattered, Tyranny's body also received heavy damage. He coughed out a mouthful of light blue tortoise blood, and his aura instantly weakened by several times. Just you wait. Tyranny left behind these final words before disappearing without a trace. Even though Tyranny was heavily injured, the king-slaying sword goddess, who had just used her ultimate skill, couldn't chase after them. She could only let Tyranny escape. Chapter 1176. Luckily, we managed to save that stupid dragon's life. Seeing that Tyranny had escaped and Ao Guang had also hidden behind Gu Xianyuan, Strife let out a long sigh of relief. In the end, the situation had reached a conclusion that everyone could accept. Is that bastard Tyranny gone? Hearing Strife's words, Ao Guang finally dared to poke his head out from behind Gu Xianyuan. After confirming that Tyranny was not around, the Dragon Crown Prince returned to his normal appearance. However, half of Ao Guang's body was soaked in black water and dragon blood, making him look extremely pathetic. Crown Prince Ao Guang, there's no need to panic. I'm here. Strife originally wanted to show off in front of the Dragon Crown Prince, and see if he could get anything out of it. However, before Strife could finish his sentence, the Dragon Crown Prince suddenly lowered his head and said to Gu Xianyuan, "Thank you for saving my life, big sister. This little dragon will never forget it. I will definitely thank you, big sister, in the future." The sword Strife was so angry that its eyes turned white. Is this Dragon Crown Prince an idiot? I'm the one who saved him. Why is he thanking Gu Xianyuan, who didn't make a move at all? Isn't this a little too infuriating? I didn't save you, it was this Knight Master who saved you. If you want to thank someone, thank him. Gu Xianyuan took the initiative to speak up, which made Strife's face look a lot better. No. I'm not going to thank such an ugly man. Ao Guang raised his head and said. His arrogant and disdainful attitude made the Strife sword spirit a little regretful for saving this stupid dragon. Perhaps it would have been better to let that stupid tortoise kill him instead. Did this stupid dragon find out something? Gu Xuanyuan's face was expressionless, but she began to ponder in her heart. In reality, the Dragon Crown Prince was right. The one who saved him was not Strife, but Ao Guang himself. If it wasn't for that last slaying sword Qi, that turtle shell would not have been broken. However, even Strife, who was beside him, did not notice that slaying sword Qi. Logically speaking, this stupid dragon should not have noticed it either. Forget it, Sir Knight, don't bother with this kid. It's more important for us to return to London, Gu Xianyuan said. Then, she said to Ao Guang, Your Highness, we are not far from the West Ocean Dragon Palace. You should be safe on the cloud. Let's bid farewell here. We will meet again if fate allows it. Having said that, Gu Xianyuan and Strife prepared to leave. No. But who would have thought that this stupid dragon would actually climb all the way up to Gu Xuanyuan's shoulder, and said with a face full of fear, I don't want it, maybe there is someone ambushing this little dragon in front, wanting to cook this little dragon and eat it. Xiaolong doesn't want to be separated from you. Let's go to London together. I'll be with you and never be separated again. That's not bad. The safety of the Crown Prince is indeed important. The strife sword spirit instinctively wanted to refuse, but on second thought, bringing the stupid dragon along might not be a bad choice. At the very least, when the people from the West Ocean Dragon Palace wanted to bring this stupid dragon back, they couldn't come back empty-handed. At the very least, they should bring some gifts to thank it. At least it would be better than just letting it go and not getting anything. No need. Gu Xianyuan shrugged and looked at the shining golden tsunami in the distance. The people who are going to pick up the Crown Prince are already here. This Crown Prince was indeed very favored by the Dragon King of the West Ocean. In order to find this Crown Prince who had not returned home for a long time, the Dragon King of the West Ocean actually sent 10 true dragons to search for him. And this was only in one direction. The Dragon King of the West Ocean had sent nearly 100 true dragons in 8 different directions, which was about 1/5 of the strength of the West Ocean dragon race. Gu Xianyuan found out that the 10 dragons were without a doubt real dragons, and Ao Guang seemed to be very familiar with each of them. They called each other uncle and uncle, which showed that they were very close to Ao Guang. They were not like the people from Tyranny who wanted to harm the dragons in the dark. Therefore, she was relieved to hand Ao Guang over to the 10 true dragons. Since Ao Guang was found by the true dragons, he naturally couldn't blame Gu Xianyuan anymore. He had no choice but to follow the 10 true dragons back to the West Ocean Dragon Palace. Before he left, he said that after a few days, he would take the initiative to go to London to repay Gu Xianyuan's kindness. Seeing that the unlucky stupid dragon had finally arrived, the strife sword spirit let out a sigh of relief, and felt a little sour at the same time. He said to Gu Xianyuan in a sour tone, "Miss Shirhan is really lucky this time. She picked up a big one for no reason, and I, the one who did it, got nothing." "Don't worry, Lord Knight." Gu Xianyuan smiled faintly. "We both know who saved us in the end. No matter what this stupid dragon repays me with in the future, I'll give it to Sir Knighthead. After all, I'm just a bystander." "That's not it." The strife sword spirit smiled awkwardly. "I don't like those gifts. Miss Shirhan, it's fine if you get it. Just treat it as a gift from me to Goddess Xianyuan. But it was really dangerous just now. I almost thought that the power of the Kingslayer sword had been exhausted, and that turtle shell could not be broken. Yeah. It seems like the heavens have given you a helping hand, Commander." Gu Xianyuan smiled as he dealt with it. Although the strife sword spirit felt that this matter was a little strange, he had no idea that it was Gu Xianyuan who did it. But this time, it's all thanks to Miss Shirhan. Otherwise, Ao Guang's big pot would be on our heads. On the way back to the cruise ship, the strife sword spirit sighed and asked, "By the way, Miss Shirhan, how did you know that this stupid dragon would have such a big pot waiting for us when he returned?" After letting the stupid dragon leave, the strife sword spirit who was planning to go directly to London was stopped by Gu Xianyuan. Then, Gu Xianyuan forced him to follow behind those stupid dragons. At first, the strife sword spirit did not understand it. When Tyranny appeared and planned to kill Ao Guang, the strife sword spirit suddenly understood what Gu Xianyuan meant. "Humph. It's just a small observation of things." Gu Xianyuan smiled. "Lord Knight, I think what happened today is very strange. I just arrived at Dunkirk Fortress, and that stupid dragon was coaxed to the side of the dock by some friend. Those playmates who accompanied the Crown Prince are not stupid. They would not let their Crown Prince risk his life to provoke a human fortress. And that playmate even went home to eat halfway. This is even more ridiculous. Have you ever seen the Crown Prince personally go into battle while his eunuchs watched from the side and even went home to eat? I see." The strife sword spirit listened and nodded. "But what is Tyranny's goal? He's deliberately trying to frame us. First, of course, it's for the true dragon's blood essence on that stupid dragon." Gu Xianyuan analyzed in detail. "Second, it's to provoke a war between us humans and the dragon race. If that stupid dragon died near our sea route, and Tyranny went up to explain why Ao Guang robbed me, The people from the West Sea Dragon Palace will definitely think that we killed Ao Guang. I know both of these points. The Strife Sword Spirit nodded. These things had been said by Tyranny before, so there was no need for Gu Xianyuan to analyze it. But there is a third goal. Gu Xianyuan raised her eyebrows. Don't forget that our Yuzhang City's Sword Tower Master is on the ship, and that dragon's goal was to rob me. With just a little provocation, the flames of hatred will easily fall on our Yuzhang City. When that happens, London City, Yuzhang City, and the Four Seas Dragon race will become enemies. I didn't think that at all. The Strife Sword Spirit was shocked. This tyranny is so vicious. If everything goes according to their plan, we humans will be facing a huge crisis. Yes. Gu Xianyuan sighed, but immediately smiled. But then again, this time, the two of us have basically stopped a crisis that could lead to the destruction of humanity. When we return to London City, the Paladin's people will at least get a lot of credit and rewards. That's nothing. The Strife Sword Spirit said it was nothing, but his face was full of smiles. After going through a series of twists and turns, the ship finally arrived in London City. London was a city built on the sea. It was also the only city that was not completely surrounded by walls. Along the sea was the most natural city wall of London, and the Port of London naturally became the West Gate of London. According to the Strife Sword Spirit's original plan, he should immediately return to Dunkirk Fortress after sending Gu Xianyuan and the others to London City. However, because such a major incident had happened on the way, the Strife Sword Spirit chose to go directly to the Royal Palace in London City to report to Longshu Jiandi after bringing Gu Xianyuan and Lu Shihua through the city gate. It was around 11 o'clock at night. London's character of closing up shop at 6 o'clock at night and never staying open for a minute longer made London City seem particularly quiet at this time. Apart from the convenience stores that were open 24 hours, only some entertainment centers were still lit. Sister Xianyuan, where are we staying? Lu Shihua asked helplessly as he looked at the exceptionally quiet street. This was probably a common problem in every base city. The number of hotels in the city was frighteningly small. In a city with a population of tens of millions of people, there might not even be 100 star-rated hotels in total. That was to be expected. Although the population of the city was large, the number of tourists was frighteningly small. Most humans could only stay in their own cities for the rest of their lives. Only the powerful sword-bearers could travel between cities and had a need for hotels. Therefore, almost all the hotels in every city were located in their core areas. After all, the sword-bearers were mainly active in the core areas. For ordinary people in London, they might not be able to find a hotel even if they broke their leg. It was not a big deal to arrive in London during the day. There was a convenient public transportation system to reach the core area of London. All the buses were now closed. Although Gu Xianyuan could drive her hovercraft around London, she was not able to do so. However, London's public transportation laws were different from other cities. Without a pass, any private hovercraft was not allowed to drive on the public roads. Even sword-bearers were no exception. If Gu Xianyuan dared to drive, people from the discipline committee would immediately come looking for her. Gu Xianyuan still had a request for London. She did not want to be blacklisted as soon as she entered London. Therefore, Gu Xianyuan temporarily gave up on driving. She wanted to search around the ordinary areas of the city to see if she could be lucky enough to find a hotel. As a result, Lu Shihua, who had been carefully observing the streets, suddenly noticed something. He pointed to a street not far away that was filled with red lights and said, "Sister Xianyuan, look, there are a lot of hotels there." Gu Xianyuan followed Lu Shihua's finger. The signboard London City Sex Service Cooperation Demonstration Red Light Street was particularly eye-catching. Chapter 1177. When Lu Shihua plucked up the courage to step into this red light street with Gu Xianyuan, he could feel the deep surprise coming from this red light street. Whether it was the scantily clad girls in front of the various hotels or entertainment venues, or the men walking on the street picking their prey, they all looked at Gu Xianyuan and Lu Shihua with a strange look in their eyes. Two girls coming to the red light street together, such an interesting thing was rare to encounter. I'll go back and suggest, soared Immortal Ling Su to close down Yuzhang City's red light street. Feeling these piercing gazes, Lu Shihua said very unhappily. I don't object, if you want all the men in Yuzhang City to object to you. Gu Xianyuan shrugged her shoulders and said. She didn't care about these gazes. With the Zhu Xian sword in her hand, these guys would at most have a craving for their eyes. In this era, the red light street and sex service were already a formal industry, but because of the high taxes in this industry, the workers had to pay a variety of fees, obtain a variety of certificates, and undergo a physical examination every 3 to 5 days. Therefore, when this industry was legalized, the number of practitioners began to decline, far less than the number of workers before legalization. As soon as Gu Xianyuan entered this red light street, she was ready to find the nearest hotel to stay. Moreover, the 3 beauties who were soliciting customers at the entrance of this hotel were very good. Not only did they have a sweet and lovely face, but they also had long golden hair, and each had a big chest, a thin waist, and a fat butt. In terms of appearance, it was estimated that they were the best in the entire red light street. This was also a matter of course. The closer the store to the entrance of the red light street, the more expensive it was, the higher the consumption level, and the more beautiful the girls inside would naturally be. Just when Gu Xianyuan was about to enter this hotel, she was stopped by Lu Shihua, whose face was flushed red. Gu Xianyuan, this guy with a woman's body and a man's heart, could ignore this hotel, but our lovely little girl Lu Shihua could not do this. As a result, the next few hotels had the same result. When Gu Xianyuan was about to enter, she was also rejected by Lu Shihua. This one will do. When Gu Xianyuan was a little impatient, Lu Shihua pulled Gu Xuanyuan's hand and forcefully chose an inn called Water Mill Kung Fu to stop. The reason why Gu Xianyuan chose this inn was because this inn's entrance didn't have any scantily clad women soliciting customers. Moreover, this inn's name was also very harmonious, unlike the surrounding inns which had love. What kind of love is this? It's a name full of temptation. Sharing economy is very unique in this red light street. The owner of this shop must be a very elegant person. This made Lu Shihua very relieved, so she forcibly dragged Gu Xianyuan into this hotel. Regarding this, Gu Xianyuan did not have any objections. As long as it was livable, it was fine. The interior decoration of this inn was just like its name, pure white everywhere. It was completely different from those hotels with psychedelic neon lights, making it stand out from the crowd. The 2 attendants at the front desk of the inn were also dressed very formally, without any revealing attire. It's just that one of the 2 attendants was wearing a close-fitting office lady attire, while the other was wearing a cute Lolita princess outfit. Such an incongruous combination made Gu Xianyuan feel that there should be something wrong with this inn. Welcome to Luing to our high mountain and flowing water. Seeing that there was business, the attendant dressed in office lady attire immediately greeted them with a face full of smiles. Luing? What Luing? Lu Shihua was confused when she heard it. Was there such a name for people in this world? Oh. Tu Luing, don't be shy. Since you are here, then you are one of us. The attendant smiled brightly and then said, I don't know who the Tu Luying's introducer is. We need to register. We don't have any introducer. Do we still need a introducer to sleep here for a night? Lu Shihua said inexplicably. It's nothing. Of course we don't need a introducer. The attendant quickly said, It's just that our inn's location is relatively remote. It's very difficult for newcomers to find us here. They are all introduced by acquaintances. Forget it. Hurry up and give us Luing. Lu Shihua suddenly regretted coming to this inn. No matter how he looked at it, there was something unspeakably strange about this inn. All right, please show me the personal terminal of the two Luing and let me register. The waiter took out a scanner and scanned Gu Xianyuan and Lu Shihua's personal terminal. Looking at the information on it, he was immediately surprised. Both of you are actually from Yuzhong City, and you're even Sir Sword Bearers. This is really rare. This is the first time I have seen a Lord Sword Bearer from Yuzhong City. The attendant's exclamation caused the attendant in Lolita attire to exclaim. They looked at the information displayed on the scanner and whispered, as if they had discovered something extraordinary. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Gu Xianyuan asked with a frown. No. The two attendants quickly waved their hands and said, We just didn't expect that the reputation of our inn would actually reach the ears of Lord Sword Bearer from Yuzhong City. Hurry up and get a room. Lu Shihua urged again. All right. Sir Sword Bearers, we have 3 types of suites, 3 types of large suites, and 3 types of presidential suite. Which one do you need? The waiter quickly asked. What a strange suite name. Lu Shihua was puzzled when she heard that. She had heard of other hotels having such a name for the presidential suite, but she had never heard of any hotel using the names small 3-pack and large 3-pack. Then, the presidential suite it is, Lu Shihua said without hesitation. She and Gu Xianyuan were also people of status. If they were to stay, they naturally wanted to stay in the best room. What? Hearing Lu Shihua's words, the two attendants opened their mouths at the same time, as if they had heard an unbelievable answer. This made Lu Shihua even more puzzled. Was London so poor? No one could even afford to stay in the presidential suite? Is there a problem? Lu Shihua asked again. No. The attendant immediately operated on the computer and asked tentatively, Is Presidential Suite 1 and Presidential Suite 2 okay? There's no need for 2 rooms. We will stay together. Lu Shihua shook her head and said. The two attendants looked at Lu Shihua and Gu Xianyuan meaningfully, then handed a room card to Lu Shihua and said, Take the elevator to the 5th floor, Presidential Suite 1, thank you. How much is the room fee? How much is the deposit? Lu Shihua took out her personal terminal and prepared to pay. No need. We will settle the shared room fee tomorrow, and then we will transfer it to your personal terminal. The minimum amount of the room fee is 1,000 renminbi. As for the specific amount, it is up to both parties to decide. We don't care. The two attendants had another incomprehensible conversation, but Lu Shihua was already used to this kind of conversation. She didn't care so much, as long as she had a bed to sleep in. Today had really tired her out. After entering the room on the 5th floor, he found that the room was well decorated. The bed was very big, the bathtub was also very big, and there was even a water bed. In the bathroom, other than the standard toiletries, there were many bottles that Lu Shihua didn't recognize, and he also didn't know what kind of liquid was inside. On the bedside, there were many common props, such as condoms, magic oil, vibrators, and so on. These were standard in many normal hotels, not to mention a hotel on a red light street like this. So Lu Shihua didn't feel that there was anything strange about it. It was just that there was a very strange-looking chair in the room, and there were also candles, iron rods, iron cages, and so on. This made Lu Shihua confused. Why would a hotel have these things? Forget it, don't worry about it. Go to bed early, we will move to the core area tomorrow. Gu Xianyuan said. I will take a bath first. The sea breeze is making my body sticky. After Lu Shihua finished speaking, he prepared to take off his clothes and enter the bathroom to take a bath, not at all avoiding Gu Xianyuan who was beside him. However, when Lu Shihua was halfway through taking off his clothes, the room door directly opened, and a person covered in a black robe directly rushed into the room. Lu Shihua let out a scream, then immediately put on the clothes that he had taken off halfway, took out the two-winged angel sword from his dimensional pocket, and swung it at the man in black robe. "Do you like to play with violence?" The man in black robe shouted excitedly, and his whole body pressed towards Lu Shihua. "Get lost!" Lu Shihua's sword slashed at the man in black robe's body. If this sword hit the man in black robe, it would at least cut through half of the man's body, but unexpectedly, when the sword approached the man in black robe, an invisible shield blocked Lu Shihua's blade. "A sword wielder!" Lu Shihua cried out in surprise. This man in black robe was actually a sword wielder like him. "Ha ha! Little beauty, don't resist, tonight you are mine." The man in black robe laughed lewdly, and did not care about the sword in Lu Shihua's hand. Relying on the strength of his shield, he directly pressed towards Lu Shihua. In a battle between sword wielder, the shield would only react to the sword in the opponent's hand, and the human body itself would not react, so the man in black robe could still touch Lu Shihua's body under the condition that his shield was activated. "Sister!" Lu Shihua screamed, and a small fruit knife directly pressed against the forehead of the man in black robe. "Sword Nyang can't break through your shield, but my fruit knife should be able to." "Hey! I say, the two of you are playing a bit too much, don't use a real weapon." The man in black robe angrily threw off the black robe on his body, and the moment she saw the appearance of this guy, Gu Xianyuan was completely shocked. "Long Shi Jiandi." Gu Xianyuan spat out the name of the man in black robe in disbelief. "You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.